bespoke radio for the masses.
Headline edition, July 8, 1947. The Army Air Forces has announced that a flying disc has been found and is now in the possession of the Army.
If the game is rigged, change the game. Game changer.
I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
This is Fade to Black with your host, Jimmy Church, on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
I need your help to get to the year 1985.
You're listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Network.
Good evening. Fade to Black. Bespoke radio for the masses. Yeah. How you doing? How you doing? Today's Wednesday, February 10th, 2021. Let's do this, man. One days into the new year. Only 324 days left. We are live from a bunker somewhere in the middle of beautiful downtown Burbank, California. And I would like to welcome everybody listening all around the world, all across the United States. Hither and thither, to and fro, back and forth, up and down, east and west, north and south, far and near. This is Fade to Black for KJCR, the Game Changer Network, and KGRA, the planet. I am your host, Jimmy Church. What is cracking, everybody? How you doing? How you doing? All right. Anybody know what's going on tonight? Anybody know? Anybody know what's going on? You know what's going on. You know, tonight, wrapping up TV week here on Fade to Black. Two very special guests. Up first, at the bottom of the hour, Giorgio Tsoukalos of Ancient Aliens is here. And right after that, second half of the show tonight, Dave Schrader of the Holzer Files is with us. How cool is that? What a great show coming up tonight. And then there is tomorrow. It's Thursday. It's another Fader night with open lines all night long. That's right. I get to hang out with all of you. Oh, man. I mean, what a way to wrap up the week, right? I mean, just an amazing week. And then I get to hang out with all of you. So there you go. What a great show we got coming up. So sit tight, kiddies. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. So just stay right there. And I want to just mention a couple things. Monday night, we had Billy Carson on. I need you to get over to forbiddenknowledge.tv. If you go over to Jimmy Church Radio, it's right there. You can just click. Head straight over to forbiddenknowledge.tv. You got to get registered. You got to subscribe. You got to go. You got to go and do it because he is giving away a Ford Focus. Not just any Ford Focus. That's a Billy Carson Ford Focus. You saw the pictures. It's really cool. So head over, get registered, forbiddenknowledge.tv. All right. And when you're over at Jimmy Church Radio, I got a couple of texts from River Moon Coffee today. Just and these were text, right? And Juanita and Jeff are always posting in Twitter and their Fader knots and all of that. But when I get a text and when Rita gets a text, just thanking us for our friendship and things, it just means so much to me personally and to Rita. So when you're over at jimmychurchradio.com, click on those links. Go visit River Moon Coffee. It is the best. I think they said today that was like the best month we've ever done right? January, and that just makes me feel great. And so head over River Moon Coffee, River Moon Wellness, all of our Black Moon products that have CBD in them. Go and check that out. Okay, rivermoonwellness.com. The links are over at jimmychurchradio.com. And then there's Einstein, the Crystal Skull, Carolyn Ford. Get over there. Go and get yourself a Crystal Skull. Promo code is Jimmy. That's all you got to do. You get 10% off of your order. With River Moon Coffee, F2B blend, 15% off of your order. Go and visit getthetea.com over at jimmychurchradio.com. Go and click promo code Fader, Fader, because you're a Fader-naut. Fader gets you free shipping. Go to the specials page. Fader, you're going to get a discount and free shipping. Ronnie McMullen, Life Change Tea. Go and visit all of our sponsors today. And then, of course, there's Conscious Life Expo. Conscious Life Expo is coming up next weekend. Not this weekend, next weekend. Okay, February 19th through the 21st. Went through video and sound and lights. Again, today, it's our second test with the production company there. And very excited, man. Very excited to be hosting this year's Conscious Life Expo. Okay, all the links are over at jimmychurchradio.com. Follow me on Twitter at jchurchradio. jchurchradio. Follow me at jchurchradio. All right, that's what you want to do. I've got Twitter live in front of me. I've got Twitter right there. It's live. We have the chat rooms. One over at Spreaker. We have the YouTube Troublemakers. I'm watching you guys. See, this is the thing. Facebook too as well, but this is what I do with YouTube. I click over, and they don't know I'm there. See, they just think I'm just yapping on the radio. Oh no, I'm watching what's going on over there. I love YouTube. All right, let's get the show cracking. I want to go. Let's go right now. Breaking news. The United States Coast Guard rescued 3 Cubans from a deserted island. Yeah, it really happened. They had been living there off of coconuts for 33 days, 5 weeks. Now, while doing, and this is how it happened, routine patrols on Monday, U.S. Coast Guard air crews saw 2 men and a woman literally waving makeshift flags out of their clothes. Hey, right? On Anguilla Cay, located in a chain of islands between Lower Florida Keys and Cuba. The Coast Guard dropped down a radio, some food, water, right, to the 3 of them on Monday, and then left. They came back and rescued him on Tuesday. You know, can you imagine you're on a deserted island, you're eating coconuts. Gilligan's Island comes to mind, right? Of course it does. But they drop a radio, and there was some communication and things. But, you know, they drop everything, right, fly away. And you got to spend one more night on the island. But they did. And the Cubans' boat had capsized in rough waters about 5 weeks ago. And this was all during the communication. And the boat capsized, and there was an island there, and they eventually swam to it and made it and lived there for 33 days. Absolutely incredible. Well, it was announced today the 2021 Rock and Roll Hall of Fame nominees were announced. Who's in the class this year? These are, now remember, these are the nominees, not the inductees. The nominees are Jay-Z. I don't get that one. He's too new. Carole King. Her birthday was yesterday. How weird is that? Today she's nominated. Tina Turner. How is it that Carole King and Tina Turner are not already in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame? All right, Mary J. Blige. Don't get that one yet either. Seems too early. Kate Bush, too early. The rules are 25 years. since your first record was released. I think that, 25 years, right? So Kate Bush, 25 years ago, Mary J. Blige. Okay, all right, I get it. Devo, good call. Foo Fighters. Foo Fighters to me are a new band. Too new. 25 years, I get that, but too new. The Go-Go's, I'm down, right? Iron Maiden, down for that. Chaka Khan. I laugh every time. Fela Kuti, LL Cool J, New York Dolls, down for that. Rage Against the Machine, Todd Rundgren. How is Todd Rundgren not in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame? As much as I love Rage Against the Machine, all right, and you know my love for Rage Against the Machine, too early. That's a new band. That's a modern band. It's not Rock and Roll Hall of Fame yet. Man, Todd Rundgren's been waiting 50 years. Tina Turner, Carole King, Rage Against the Machine, and I love them too. And Dionne Warwick. Now, obviously, I'm going with Carole King, Tina Turner, New York Dolls, Devo, Todd Rundgren, right? Iron Maiden. All of that makes sense. Let's see who makes the cut. They're going to make the announcements in, I think, May. Let's get the show cracking. Happy birthday to today, Laura Dern. Laura friggin' Dern is 54. Blue Velvet. Right? Huh? Wild at Heart. What was her name in Wild at Heart? Lula. Lula. I can't remember her name in Blue Velvet. Not the same role. I mean, some people are thinking, it's part one and part two. But no, Lula, though, in Wild at Heart. And she was also great in Twin Peaks. Can't forget about that. Twin Peaks Part 2, right? HBO, Showtime, something like that. She was great. Elton John's drummer, Nigel Olsson. Today is 72. I always remember Nigel. He had his name on his drum set. Right there on his kick drum, Nigel Olsson. That long, straight black hair. And you always knew who it was. That was the coolest name ever for a drummer, Nigel Olsson. And I think my memory is like he had Nigel Olsson on one drum, kick drum, and on the other kick drum it said Elton John, which is pretty cool. I don't know why. Did he ever have like Nigel on one and Olsson on the other? Did he do it like that, or was it always just Nigel Olsson on one drum and Elton John? See, man, I just can't remember. That's going back to the 70s. Happy birthday, Nigel Olsson. Our dead guy's birthday today is, moment of silence, please, the great Cliff Burton. 1962 to 1986, died at the age of 24. Cliff was the bassist for Metallica from March 1983 until his death. Now, Cliff played on Metallica's first 3 albums, Kill 'Em All, Ride the Lightning, that's right, and Master of Puppets. September 27th, 1986, around 7 a.m., he died in a bus crash in Kronoberg County, a rural area of southern Sweden, as Metallica toured in support of the Master of Puppets album. He has been... Cliff Burton, man. I'm all shook up. He's been recognized as a very influential musician, and everybody knows that, playing that distortion pedal, man. Those bass solos were just incredible. And the accolades came after his death as well. He placed 9th in a 2011 Rolling Stone magazine poll of the greatest bassist of all time. He was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame as a member of Metallica on April 4th, 2009. Died at the age of 24. Incredible. Happy birthday, Cliff. On this day in history, OTD, 1996, it went down when world chess champion Garry Kasparov loses the first game of a 6-game match against Deep Blue, an IBM computer capable of evaluating 200 million moves per second. But Kasparov did win the match. Lost the first game. He had to figure out what was going on. But he won the match. 3 wins, 2 ties, and the 1 loss. on this day in 1996. Fader fact, Dolph Lundgren. That's right, Rocky. Dolph Lundgren has an IQ of 160. That's right. He has a master's degree in chemical engineering from the University of Sydney and the Royal Institute of Technology and a Fulbright scholarship to MIT. That's right. And that is your Fader fact. All right, this week, TV week here on Fade to Black. Tonight, we have two very special guests. Giorgio Tsoukalos of Ancient Aliens and Dave Schrader of the Holzer Files. And coming up after the break, it's Giorgio. And then second half of the show tonight, it's Dave Schrader. And then, of course, tomorrow night is Fader night with open lines all night long. All right. Does Laura still live in Silver Lake? You know, David, the fact that you know that kind of freaks me out. It would seem, though, that she would live in Silver Lake. There's a couple of pockets of Silver Lake. Silver Lake now is better than it was. It was a little dicey there in the 90s. Silver Lake being right next to, in between Hollywood and Glendale. But there's this hill in Silver Lake, and there's a hillside also in Silver Lake. The higher you get, the nicer it gets. But there's this hill in Silver Lake right in the middle of town. And unless you knew it was there, you wouldn't. There was gates that you have to get through. But you go up there, there's like 8 houses up there. Ginormous. Right in the middle of Silver Lake. But no, I didn't know. I did not know that she lived in Silver Lake. But it does bother me, David, that you know that. All right. Let's let that one go. All right. River Moon Coffee. Thank you, Juanita. Thank you, Jeff. You guys are the absolute best. I'm drinking it right now. This is a special cup of River Moon. This is River Moon Coffee Fade to Black blend, right? With a shot of espresso right on the top. Love Rita. Love my River Moon coffee. RiverMoonWellness.com. You can also visit the River Moon Amazon store. All right. Yeah, Dolph Lundgren, that guy right there. Thank you, Corey. 106. Who would have guessed? All right. Puma Punku. I remember it like it was yesterday. But it wasn't. It was back in 2009 with the launch of Ancient Aliens. And here we are. 12 years and 16 seasons later. And I'm still talking about Puma Punku. Puma Punku. I watched the Puma Punku episode like 3 times that first night. I could not believe. Right? I'm rewinding it. And it was a 2-hour show back then. It was 2 hours. They ended up cutting those first like 3 episodes in half, stretching it out and getting, maybe it was like 6 episodes, getting a full season out of Ancient Aliens, those first few episodes. True story. That's how they did it. But anyway, I was taking notes, literally taking notes. I mean, I couldn't believe it. So I turn around, Puma Punku, man. I looked it up on the net. I found nothing. Now, well, that's not completely true. I think I found something. But it was spelled a little different. And I was trying to search for the way I was saying it. Does that make sense? And I was rewinding it, and I'm like, Puma Punku, right? But anyway, but I did find it, and there was nothing there. There was no real info. There was like a name. There was like a little thing, a little blurb, but I couldn't find anything. But two things stuck out, about this entire situation. And that was Robert Clotworthy said, the narrator of Ancient Aliens, said that the site may be 15,000 years old. Now, holy crap, write that down, right? 15,000 years old. And those H blocks. All right? Now, back then, it was all that I could think about. I brought it up as often as I could with my friends, but most hadn't seen the show or, Ancient Aliens was too new. And nobody heard about Puma Punku. Nobody had. Back then, I was tripping. And I'd be around my friends. I'm like, dude, Puma Punku, it's 15,000 years old. They got these H blocks, they got the stone. It's called diorite, and it's harder than diamonds. And they had nothing up there. They had no trees, and there's 12,000 foot altitude. And how do they do this? And I'm just losing my mind with it. But today, everyone gets it, right? Bring a Puma Punku, you have a good conversation, right? And I even have an H block pin. You may have seen me wear it. I wear it on my suit jackets. It's a great pin, gifted to me from Giorgio. But back in the day, I was on a mission. I was. And about a month after the show first aired, I got a chance to hang out with Michio Kaku. And I tell Michio the whole story. I tell him everything. Puma Punku. He's like, what? I said, it's in Bolivia. He's like, okay. All right. I tell him about the H blocks, the diorite, that it's possibly 15,000 years old. And he was like, wait. Let me stop you right there. Ice Age. And I go, yeah, I know. And he's like, 10,000 BC, 12,000 years ago. That's it. Nothing before, and I actually replied with, but Michio, yeah, but, and he cuts me off with, he's like, no. There was nothing before 10,000 BC. Besides, you can't date rock. This is what he said. Now, here's the deal with me. I thought that everyone has an open mind, and that these are discussions that intellectuals have, spirited debate. He would have nothing of it. And I was pretty bummed about it. He had just released a new book, which he had signed for me, about ancient civilizations and alien civilizations and Dyson spheres and contact. But he didn't want to consider 15,000-year-old H blocks in Bolivia. And I did my best. About a month after Michio, Wolf McCarran calls me up and he says, hey, Giorgio is speaking at MUFON LA. Now, remember back then, Giorgio wasn't Giorgio yet. And it took me a minute. I was like, oh, whoa, the dude with the hair on this new show, Ancient Aliens. Yeah, okay, so I show up at MUFON, and here's the funny part. There was probably 100 people there. It's a good-sized crowd for sure, but many there didn't even know who Giorgio was yet. And 100 people showed up every single month for every MUFON meeting. That's it. And at that time, there was only like 2 or 3 episodes of Ancient Aliens on the air yet. So the mayhem hadn't happened. But I was there for one reason. Puma Punku. Seriously. And Giorgio didn't disappoint either. It was raining outside, and Giorgio was late. And he pulled up on a friggin' motorcycle. He walks in, he's dripping wet, pulls off his helmet, and his hair is standing straight up on end. You can't make this stuff up. Takes off his black leather jacket, throws it on a chair, walks by everybody, heads onto the stage, gets up there, boom, straight to his presentation. It was pretty epic, actually. Anyway, I sit through everything, and then this slide pops up on the screen. Puma Punku. And I was like, here we go. And everybody was being so polite. Everybody's being quiet and listening to the presentation, and it was great. But now it's Puma Punku time. And I had some questions. And everybody was being so polite, but not me. And remember, this was 3 years before Fade to Black and Coast to Coast AM. Nobody knew me. I'm just somebody in the audience. But I had the voice. I had the voice I was born with. So Giorgio hears me from the back of the room. And I'm like, wait a minute. Hold on. Let me jump in right there. Right? And Giorgio's like, what? Now, I don't remember everything that was said or what I asked or his answers. What I do remember is how cool he was about being so rudely interrupted in the middle of his presentation because we had a great exchange. And I also remember everybody turning around and watching me ask the questions and then facing him for his answers. It was pretty awesome, actually. For Giorgio, I think he was pretty happy that someone was paying attention to Ancient Aliens and actually learned something from it. And for me, it was the exact opposite of my exchange and my experience with Michio, who just blew me off. Do Robert Plant and Jimmy Page ever get tired of playing Stairway to Heaven? Probably not. And I wonder the same thing about Giorgio. Does he ever get tired of talking about Puma Punku? Well, he's our first guest tonight. And we're going to find out right after the break because this is TV Week here on Fade to Black. Tonight, two very special guests. First up, Giorgio Tsoukalos, Ancient Aliens, and then later on tonight, it's Dave Schrader of the Holzer Files. Tomorrow night's another Thursday. It's another Fader night with open lines all night long. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. This is Fade to Black on the Game Changer Network and KGRA, The Planet. I'll be right back with our guest, Giorgio Tsoukalos. Stay with us.
This is Nicole Church, daughter of you-know-who, and you're listening to Fade to Black on JimmyChurchRadio.com and the Game Changer Network.
You're listening to Jimmy Church, Fade to Black.
Fade to Black will now pause for alien identification.
The station that talks the net. KGRA Radio.
Introducing the Game Changer blend from Rivermoon Coffee that delivers a customized blend made specifically for the Fadernauts. If the game is rigged, change the game. It's a bolder cup with some bite. Game Changer is the coffee of choice for those that prefer an organic dark roast that is slightly lighter and milder, but it's still dark. With wild notes of pecans and chocolate with a rich, balanced, full-bodied cup that is roasted to perfection for a great coffee to start your day, as an after-dinner coffee or anywhere in between. Artisan, small batch roasted to perfection. USDA certified organic, all Rivermoon coffee is freshly roasted and packaged in the USA. Just go to rivermooncoffee.com or click on the banners over on our site and use the promo code F2B Blend for 15% off of your order today. rivermooncoffee.com.
This is the only way forward.
This is Fade to Black. Make contact. KGRARadio.com.
This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and you can get our podcast for just $2 per month. All you have to do is click on the podcast banner over at jimmychurchradio.com.
Hi, folks. It's troubling times, and fear is pushing emotions, which in turn pushes health the wrong direction. Do you ever get an ache because life is uneasy? Try Life Change Tea at getthetea.com. Life Change Tea works on your digestive tract, helping to move food through quicker and comfortably so your health is spot on. Life Change Tea may not help with world issues, but it will help with your digestive issues. A glass a day helps keep the intruders away. So, change your life today. Log on to getthetea.com. That's getthetea.com. If your health game is off, get on by ordering Life Change Tea. Getthetea.com. And while you're on our site, look around at the great non-GMO organic supplements. And if you're a sales shopper, go to our specials page and see what's for you. I've been drinking the tea for 12 years and I'm sure glad for its health benefits. Again, that's getthetea.com. Getthetea.com. The tea that makes you go.
Fadernauts. When you think about the future of our country and where we're headed, do you wonder about the food supply? I do. Disruptions in the food supply chain could be disastrous, and they usually occur with little warning. That's why the smartest thing you can do today is to stockpile emergency food, water, and other essentials. I personally recommend My Patriot Supply. They're the nation's largest emergency preparedness company, serving millions of customers for more than a decade. In fact, they're the only source my family trusts for our preparedness plan. You should too. Right now, save 20% off a full 4-week supply of delicious meals that provide 2,000 calories a day. Saving 20% helps too, doesn't it? Especially now. So go to preparewithjimmy.com and get ready. That's preparewithjimmy.com. There's no time to lose. Do it now.
9 out of 10 geneticists agree.
Fade to Black is not your father's radio show on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, The Planet.
Hi, this is Rob Reiner from Anvil, and you're listening to JimmyChurchRadio.com.
What's up? I'm Chris. What up? This is Kyle Massey, and you're listening to Jimmy Church Radio.
All right, welcome back. Fade to Black. I am your host, Jimmy Church. On the Game Changer Network and KGRA, The Planet. Tonight, wrapping up our TV week here on Fade to Black, Giorgio Tsoukalos, Ancient Aliens. Coming up, second half of the show tonight, Dave Schrader of the Holzer Files. Tomorrow night is another Fader night with open lines all night long. Tonight, Giorgio, who, for over 20 years, has been the director of Erich von Daniken Center for Ancient Astronaut Research. Giorgio has starred in and appeared on the History Channel, the Travel Channel, the National Geographic Channel, the Sci-Fi Channel, Fade to Black, many other international television and radio programs about the latest discoveries in the ancient astronaut field. 16 seasons. That's all I've got. I want to welcome back to Fade to Black, Giorgio Tsoukalos. Giorgio, man, how you doing?
Very good, Jimmy. Thank you so much for having me on the show again. And I'd like to say a special hello to all the Fadernauts listening at this hour.
Yeah, right on, man. 16 seasons, bro. 16 seasons.
Yeah.
Have you you're lying. Have you forgotten more than you remember?
I always do. No, but look, obviously nobody had foreseen this. And, you know, so the fact that we are still here is incredible. And it just goes to show that we've obviously, and I've said this many times before, we've struck a chord. We struck a chord with the audience, and people are interested in the timeless mysteries of the world. And, you know, each of these episodes offers something new. So, you know, I too, along the years, have learned things. Like, I never used to be into modern day ufology.
Right.
But through Ancient Aliens, it's one of my favorite topics now.
You know, this is the thing. And it goes, it doesn't matter if it's I Love Lucy or The Tonight Show or 60 Minutes. It doesn't matter. You know, Friends. It just doesn't matter. People connect. And when they connect, it's a personal thing where they feel the show is made just for them, right? And that's what happened to me, Giorgio. I mean, I was like, this is perfect television. They made this for me. And that's exactly what happened.
Well, and one giant credit that we have to give here is to Kevin Burns, who is the creator of Ancient Aliens, who unfortunately is no longer with us. He passed away in September of last year, at the end of September, September 27th. And that was quite a shock, not just to the contributors, but also to Prometheus Studios, because Ancient Aliens was not the only show that they are creating, but they also run the widely successful show called The Curse of Oak Island,
right,
and then the Skinwalker show. And I got to tell everybody right away that everything will continue as is. Kevin has left a very awesome company. I'm still working with the exact same writers and producers as I have before. And, I've already seen some of the new episodes that will come out soon. And Kevin, I will tell you, is smiling down upon us. He will be incredibly proud. And I myself am incredibly proud of Prometheus, that they have truly they are carrying forward the torch.
Now, before we talk about what's going to go down this Friday, which is pretty amazing, last night I had Scott Walter on the show, and he made the point twice during the show to say hello to you, and he just mentioned which everybody says about you. You meet Giorgio and you've made a friend. And I had one chance to hang out and break bread with him when we talked till 2:00 in the morning. And it was just one of the greatest nights. So please tell him I said hello. So I got that out of the way. Okay.
Well, hi, Scott. I remember that night well. And you meet people with the life that we have. You meet people on the road, and instead of have a weird situation, just break bread with somebody, have a drink, get to know people, because oftentimes, you think, that would be so strange to hang with somebody, and then you meet with them for 5 minutes, and then they turn out to be really cool people. And so the one thing, the way this works is you got to hang out with people and not be standoffish. And so Scott, I have to agree too. He's a cool guy.
Yeah, he's a real cool dude. And I'm going to confess something to you. I remember I have one autographed T-shirt. One. It's from you. And I remember the day we changed, right? We exchanged T-shirts. We signed them both and handed them off to each other. And I've never worn it, man. It's like my prized possession.
I have not worn yours either. It's nicely folded. It's the signature. It's never been washed. The signature is intact.
Same thing with mine, man. I'm not going to wear it.
No. We're saving it for retirement, right?
Yeah, that's it. I need to buy that island and maybe that T-shirt. Maybe that T-shirt will do something for me. Well, now, okay, so this Friday's a very big deal, and I want to talk about that. When we go through life and we get a chance to interact with people that you never would have dreamed of meeting or let alone working with, that's going to go down this Friday. Tell us about it.
Well, this Friday, we have none other than Captain Kirk himself, William Shatner, join us for a 2-hour special for Ancient Aliens. And in fact, it's going to be called William Shatner Meets Ancient Aliens. And this is the brainchild of Kevin Burns, where 2.5 years ago, I remember that there were talks about this new potential show with William Shatner that Prometheus was going to produce called The Unexplained. And as we now know, The Unexplained has become quite a very successful show on the History Channel. And about a year ago, Kevin had this idea, well, what if William Shatner sits into one of our discussions that, David Childress or William Henry, Nick Pope, all my colleagues are having, let's say, over coffee or over a beer somewhere. And let's just bring William Shatner in at a round table and see if he can ask us questions. And then the idea is to perhaps even convince the guy. And in November of 2020, we actually got to do Kevin's vision. And it was, for all of us involved, one of the most extraordinary experiences of our lives, because William Shatner is one of the most generous and quick-witted people I have ever met in my entire life. And it was an absolute privilege to spend the day with the guy and have a meaningful conversation. And you will see that in the 2-hour special that will come out this Friday at 9 p.m. And all I can say is that even if you've never seen Ancient Aliens, this is definitely the one to tune in.
Now, what impressed you most? That he was inquisitive? Did he have knowledge of ancient alien theory?
It came across that William Shatner is a seeker. He is a voracious reader. He reads many different books about different topics. The man oozes curiosity, and it's where you can tell that when we spoke to him, he paid attention. And let's say we discussed something at 11 a.m. At 11 a.m. And then at 3 p.m. we would, talk about something else. It's rare that I would meet somebody who says 4 hours later, well, wait a second, could this be connected with what we were talking about 4 hours ago? Now that is a man. And mind you, this gentleman turns 90 years old this March in only a few weeks. And, it's amazing how fast and how witty his brain is. I mean, just to give you one very quick small anecdote, I was once sitting in a conference room with the writers for The Unexplained show and with Kevin Burns, and, essentially a large portion of Prometheus before or when they were discussing, what The Unexplained should be. And so it was basically a story meeting in which they talked about the different topics we were going to discuss. And then we talked about or proposed the idea of Nikola Tesla. And Nikola Tesla, as we all know, was, a quirky guy. And one of his things that he did, he raised pigeons on the top of his building there. And in fact, there are some stories that say that he actually fell in love with one of those carrier pigeons that Tesla raised. So one of these carrier pigeons he fell in love with. This is the story that Kevin Burns tells the whole room, including, of course, William Shatner. Without missing a beat, William Shatner replies, well, I guess he got carried away. I mean, the entire room just erupted in laughter. I mean, it was so fast and so quick. So, he is one of the funniest guys that I've ever had the privilege of working with. And, it's interesting that a guy like that, who has played a starship captain is still in real life incredibly inquisitive and asks, well, let's explore this more instead of just buying it hook, line, and sinker.
Did did it ever come to the point with him where, for you personally, or anybody else, William Henry and so forth, is it a little bit intimidating?
Yes. Look, I mean, he's a legend.
Exactly.
And of course, you try to, not let that get to you. But I mean, I don't, I can't speak for the other people that were, like I can't speak for Childress or Henry. But myself, I had to pinch myself every 20 minutes. And, I've got Captain Kirk sitting here to my left. So, and mind you, I mean, this round table, it had I think there were 8 people at this table, and you could tell that, everybody at that table wanted to have a conversation with him. And you can imagine how that went with 8 alphas at the table.
Yeah, totally. 8 alphas. And without giving anything away, but I wouldn't do my job if I didn't ask. Where was he? You have Giza, you have the ancient pyramids, you have the ancient sites around the world, you have Easter Island and Stonehenge and things. Did he go there?
Yes. In fact, what convinced him the most, or not convinced him, what really threw him for a loop was the physical evidence. Where. And he had an already very broad and detailed understanding of, what mainstream archaeology, for example, suggests how some of the ancient blocks were transported, that they used 200 people and that they calculated, well, for this type of stone, you need that many people. And then, you take the harness around your chest and this is how you pull everything. This is all fantastic, great, and what have you. But if you pull this block up this cliff on a mountainside where you cannot fit 200 people, well, you've got a problem. And so it's those little details where the archaeologists, and bless their hearts, I love most of them, they don't explain the problems where an engineer goes there and they're like, well, okay, great. So you have 200 people, but where do they fit? Because the pathway to where this thing is doesn't fit 200 people. In fact, you can't even have 2 people standing side by side. And so it's those little details where you could see the sparkle in Shatner's eyes.
Now, did you take advantage of the moment? Did you ask him about Star Trek?
Well, yes. In fact, one of the discussions was, Shatner, in fact, we all remember he directed Star Trek V, and in there, the Enterprise, is captured by, quote unquote, God. And Kirk asks, quote unquote, God, what does God need a starship for? And that is exactly what the ancient astronaut theory is about, where in Ezekiel, for example, we have the story that God needed a vehicle with which to go from point A to point B and things like that. And Erich von Daniken has always said, since when does God need a vehicle to travel around in? And in fact, the interesting thing is that in the 70s, Shatner did a documentary called Mysteries of the Gods, which was also a type of Chariots of the Gods documentary. And when we asked him about that, he says, oh, I don't even remember that I did that. So, the 70s was a long time ago. But, so Shatner has always been a seeker.
Now, the ability to do that, do you think that, to ask him about Star Trek, do you think he gets tired of it?
Obviously, I cannot speak, for him, but what I've seen, and this is the third time that I've been around him, he's very, very generous with fans who, or even when Linda Moulton Howe or Nick Pope say, my wife and I we're great fans of Boston Legal, or Linda said she's a big fan of Star Trek, as him as Captain Kirk. Not once he was like, oh, whatever. No, he actually was appreciative about it. Now, I do understand, the guy gets hounded sometimes, and this is an issue with anyone these days, or even 20 years ago. So I'm sure that. Sometimes it can become a bit much, but it becomes much with everyone.
It can, and see, that's the thing. I don't want to. I don't want to picture something else. I want to picture exactly what you're saying, right? That's what I want. I don't want the negative side. I just went through. I just went through watching Star Trek: The Original Series. And it had been a long time since I did it, but I was able to binge it and focus on it, and really and when you go back and do it like that, after so many years have passed, and about you really appreciate how not only excellent the program was, but the chances that they took. The programs were all about racial issues and political issues and religious issues of the day, framed in science fiction, and it was that courageous is the word.
Absolutely, and absolutely revolutionary. Because what Roddenberry did, and I read some Roddenberry biographies, so yeah, I'm sort of a little bit familiar with this. But Roddenberry used science fiction in order to illustrate present problems, and so this was his way to circumvent the censors. That's because right. The censors, in a round or in a weird way, didn't quite understand what he was trying to say, because, oh, you know what? These stories, they happen in outer space. So what do we care about that?
Yeah, I thought it was, you see it today, and I don't know if I'm just smarter than when I was a kid, but you see it today and you're like, man, that's clever. Mm-hmm. That's really clever. I see what's going on. And it was politics. It was race. I mean, they took race head on in the late 60s. That's a challenging thing to go and do.
No, absolutely sensational. Especially, I missed the episode, which episode that is. But there are these people that are on one side of their body, they are a complete black, and on the other side they're a complete white. And they're at war with each other. And Kirk and his team arrive on the planet. And are you guys crazy? You look the same. And the answer is no. His black is on the left, and the other guy's is on the right. And we're the opposite. And it's like, that right there was revolutionary.
It was
genius. For the 60s. Yeah, genius. Absolutely.
Do you guys have the same issues to consider when you guys are challenging religion, and you're challenging cultures, historical backgrounds?
Well, look, I mean, there's always people that suggest that we're the ones who say that the ancients did not build their structures, and I challenge anyone to point out in any of the episodes where we say that the ancient structures, such as the pyramids, were not built by humans. Of course, the ancient pyramids were built by human beings. Nobody has ever denied this. Of course, ancient structures around the world were built by human beings. It was not extraterrestrials who dirtied their hands or got sweaty. In fact, the extraterrestrials knew that we were here. They knew that they would worship us, that we would worship them, because how did they arrive? They came down from the sky. So obviously, a technologically primitive society wouldn't understand that people descending from the sky are not gods, but they're space travelers. So it was all based on a giant misunderstanding. And so, ancient aliens, it actually fulfills Occam's razor, because in the end, with certain examples, the extraterrestrial answer is the simplest answer in terms of Occam's razor. So, if you want to believe that you can cut gray andesite with copper, then that is your prerogative, and you can fine, live a happy life. But you're not rooted in reality, because gray andesite cannot be cut with copper. It's a physical impossibility. So, and by the way, I have also never denied that our ancestors did not know how to cut stone. Of course they knew how to cut stone, and they did it. But the question is, fine, if you have porous or soft rock, sure, we can do that. But if today, to cut andesite or any stones that are a +6 on the hardness scale of the most scale of the hardness of rock, well, then you are absolutely barking up the wrong tree when you say, oh, this can also be done with ordinary tools, because it cannot. Now, an archaeologist will not tell you this. It will be an engineer who will tell you this. And I'm sorry, if it comes to construction, I'd rather listen to an engineer than an archaeologist. And let me repeat myself. I love the archaeologists. However, they are not engineers.
Giorgio, I had to trim out a little hole for my back gate for the lock to catch, right? Mm-hmm. So I get out a brand new chisel, stainless steel, hardened chisel, had the black cap on it, brand new, never used. Got my hammer out. I'm trimming out cedar, okay? Cedar wood with this hardened stainless steel chisel. Pop, 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 pop. I did it for 3 minutes. The chisel tip, cedar, notches in it, right?
Wow.
Now you want to tell me copper chisels and red granite? That there's no match, right? I don't want to hear it. I'm dealing with cedar and stainless steel, and it it was damaged. Now just imagine if I took that same chisel, stainless steel, to red granite, to diorite. It's not gonna happen.
This is really, first of all, you're right in anything you just said here. And what's fascinating is that you can actually tell in some ancient places where a chisel was used after the fact, meaning you have the original artifact. Now, what I'm about to say, obviously, is something that an Egyptologist will throw into my face right away, saying that, oh, this is just baloney. But when you, for example, go to Saqqara, you go to Saqqara, and there's this underground structure called the Serapeum. Yep. Inside the Serapeum are some of the largest stone sarcophaguses that have ever been found anywhere in ancient Egypt. All of those sarcophagi are unmarked. There is not a single marking on them. On any of them, and I think there's like 30 or 35. Please don't quote me on this. At the Serapeum, one sarcophagus of those 30 actually has hieroglyphic writing on it. However, you look at that type of writing, the way it was chiseled into there, and you compare it to other of the area ancient Egyptian carvings of writing, it is night and day. It's as if a kid walked in with a crayon and started to, just draw everywhere, wherever, with that. So what I'm saying is that somewhere along the lines, some technology was either lost or the extraterrestrials took it with them again, and afterwards our ancestors tried to imitate, or they tried to preserve this knowledge And that then got snowballed into what we today call religion.
Let's take our break right here. Giorgio Tsoukalos bringing his A game. This is Fade to Black. This is night 3 of TV Week here on Fade to Black. We've got Giorgio Tsoukalos, and then coming up at the bottom of the hour, Dave Schrader of the Holzer Files. I'll be right back. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. More with Giorgio after this short break. Stay with us.
This is Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
This is KGRA Digital Broadcasting Station, Salt Lake City, Utah, Van Buren, Arkansas.
Hello, my name is Billy Carson, and I am a best-selling author and the founder of ForbiddenKnowledge.tv. Together with my team, we have built an all-new conscious streaming TV platform designed with every family member in mind. If you have ever wanted to travel the world and attend lectures and workshops from your favorite speakers but weren't able to, look no further. ForbiddenKnowledge.tv. There are dozens of workshops and lectures from speakers you know and love. We have also included amazing categories to assure that your consciousness is entertained and elevating on a daily basis. Amazing interviews, ancient history, ascension knowledge, wisdom teachings, documentaries, conspiracies, mysteries, health and fitness, conscious cooking, meditations, finance, yoga, and so much more. To start your free trial on any mobile device or computer, surf to ForbiddenKnowledge.tv. That's Forbidden Knowledge with the number 4, ForbiddenKnowledge.tv. Again, visit ForbiddenKnowledge.tv today.
Listen, I know, and you know, that you've always wanted your first crystal skull. Or maybe you're a collector just like me, but you just don't know where to go to find the real thing. Then I met Carolyn Ford over at EinsteinTheCrystalSkull.com. Carolyn is the guardian of Einstein, one of the most respected ancient crystal skulls in the world. All of her unique skulls have been imprinted sitting with Einstein in his sacred lodge and are carved from the finest gemstone and materials. Imprinting is the process of receiving the ancient wisdom from the master skull or master computer. Einstein, the ancient crystal skull. To see Carolyn's current collection of crystal skulls, just visit her store at EinsteinTheCrystalSkull.com or click on the banner over on our site. Don't forget to use the promo code Jimmy at checkout to receive 10% off of your order today. That's promo code Jimmy. Finding your first or next crystal skull is easy. Just visit EinsteinTheCrystalSkull.com. When you take the beans from Central America with dashes of Indonesian and African mixed in and then roast it to the dark side of Fade to Black, you create the ultimate brew of fringe. Introducing the Fade to Black blend from Rivermoon Coffee. Yes, Rivermoon's darkest customized roast was created for the love of Fade to Black. The alchemy of masterful roasting and smoking the beans is in every sip of this full-bodied, dark Java. I need my coffee dark, deep, with distinct bittersweet chocolate highlights, just like the bunker. Leaning further into the darkness of the roast is Fade to Black blend from Rivermoon Coffee. Just click on the banner at jimmychurchradio.com and use the promo code F2B blend for 15% off of your order today.
Hello, I'm Katie, and you're listening to my main man, Jimmy Church, on jimmychurchradio.com.
Hi, this is Ray Hobbs here, repping the planet, and you're listening to my good friend, Jimmy Church, Fade to Black, on the Game Changer Network and the KGRA Digital Broadcast Station.
This is Toby Kebbell. You're listening to JimmyChurchRadio.com. Don't hurt me, Jimmy. I'm only little.
Hey, I'm Adrian Grenier. And this is Ari Gold. We're the Honey Brothers. We are also Honey Brothers. Hey, I'm Adrian Grenier.
And I'm Ari Gold.
We're the Honey Brothers.
And you're listening to Jimmy Church.
The Revolution.
This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and you can become an official Fadernaut by just going to our membership section at jimmychurchradio.com.
Hello, this is Serena Wright-Taylor from Conscious Life Expo, and you're listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church, who holds the Lucky Pony record for the best astrological chart since 1963. True story.
This is Micah Hanks of the Gralien Report, and you're listening to Jimmy Church on Fade to Black, across the globe on the Game Changer Radio Network and the one and only KGRA Radio, The Planet.
Welcome back, Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Tonight, Giorgio Tsoukalos is with us. Season 16 of Ancient Aliens, and coming up this Friday, William Shatner sits down with the round table with the crew over at Ancient Aliens. You don't want to miss that. And now back to the conversation. But Giorgio, I have to ask you, do you ever get tired of talking about Puma Punku?
Ancient astronaut theorists say no. See, ladies and gentlemen, there is a time when ancient astronaut theorists say no. So, no, never.
And what is it? You and I have talked about it so much, and I mean, this audience knows, and you know, my affection and interest into Puma Punku. It was you that introduced me to it, and I ask you about it all the time. Out of everything on planet Earth that you have researched when you get into ancient astronaut theory, is Puma Punku still your number one?
Absolutely, and until a second Puma Punku is found, it will be my smoking gun, because, and by the way, through the show, the funding at Puma Punku, that's due to the popularity that Puma Punku has gained because of the show, research funding for archaeological excavations at Puma Punku and Tiwanaku have been increased. So they're finding new stuff almost every week. And some of the blocks of gray andesite that they are now finding deep underneath the earth or buried would indicate that at some point some type of a disaster happened there, because clearly those big blocks are in the earth, they're in the soil. And let me set the record one more time straight, that nobody ever said that nobody knows how they would cut the red limestone, because the red limestone, that was never the question, how the limestone was cut, because we know limestone is soft, so you can just use a fingernail and you can scratch limestone. But that's the half of the story. The other rocks that are there is gray andesite, and you can distinguish between the two in color. One is gray, the other stuff is red. So very easy to distinguish. Those gray andesite blocks, some of them are so precisely cut that if you were to run your finger down an edge of one of those rocks, you could actually cut yourself. And what is not translated in many of the pictures, and that you can only experience if you're there in person, is the surface of the gray andesite. It is as smooth as a bathroom mirror. Now, I know we've all seen pictures, we've all seen it, but the one thing each time that I bring people to Puma Punku, they're all blown away that when they touch the surface, it's perfection. And if there was only one block, one could say, oh, all right, whatever, it is what it is. But there are tons of blocks like that with precision incisions that are perfect, no deviations. It's as if only master builders worked there and nobody essentially made a mistake, which is that's a tall order.
Now, what is it for you? My opinion doesn't matter, but what is it for you when it comes to Puma Punku? The one thing, because there's so many different aspects to it, but for you, what stands out?
Well, it's not one thing. See, I always like to look at the bigger picture of a given problem, and that is, you see, there are legends at Puma Punku that were the local legends. See, it's not myself or David Childress or Erich von Daniken who has said that our ancestors had help from extraterrestrials. It's the ancestors themselves who are saying this, that they had help from the so-called gods. Now, and I don't care what academic book you read, every archaeologist will tell you, yes, all of this stuff was done to worship the gods. Then they tap each other on the back and they go home and the discussion is over. Well, nobody asks the question, what gods are we talking about here? Because to suggest that this all was a part of our ancestors' fancy flights of fantasy, that to me is the insult in the face of our ancestors. Instead of listening or reading what they said, that they had teachers. Because all the ancient astronaut theory suggests is that a long, long time ago, our so-called primitive ancestors, and by primitive, I am not referring to their intellect, I am referring to their their tools were primitive. And we have to agree with this. And so the idea that somebody taught us in eons and eons ago is not a wild proposition, because if it were such a wild proposition, and if we were to suggest that human ingenuity, everything can be born out of a vacuum, well then let's abolish any and all universities, any and all schools, elementary, middle, high school, everything. Let's just throw it all out and see how it goes without being taught anything, without teachers. I mean, it's nonsense to suggest that, we growing up need teachers, but our ancestors 10,000 years ago, they just pulled it out of the ether. And then we have texts that say, no, the knowledge was given. That's not an insult. It is our history.
And that's exactly the point I was hoping you would. It's not the physical things, because the physical things are tremendous and they're fun and we get to look at it and we challenge our minds. But you just hit the nail on the head. For me, the craziest thing about Puma Punku is no paper, no pencils, no drawing boards, no language. None of those resources are there, but yet these blocks were replicated with precision. That's the part without having a drawing board or engineering, because if you could draw out one plan, right, and hand it out to the guys and go, okay, go quarry this. Well, all right. Well, okay. All right. I could dig that. They didn't have any of that. But yet they replicated with precision. That's the part to me that is the most puzzling and the hardest to overcome.
What's also interesting is that Puma Punku, just like Göbekli Tepe, is one of the, so Göbekli Tepe, everyone, is one of the places that doesn't feature any, at least as far as we know today, there is no writing system there. There's no writing, there's no glyphs, there's only drawings of weird creatures. Many of them, by the way, who are winged. And that to me is like another smoking gun to illustrate beings with wings. I am not saying, or I have never said that, people came down from the sky with their own wings. That was the symbolism that our ancestors came up with, that they combined or tried to symbolize flight with wings of a bird. I mean, it is incredibly smart. It's fantastic, and a fantastic illustration to combine this idea. Somebody helped us, and they had the capability of flying.
Now, there's another point. I'm glad you're not tired of talking about Puma Punku. We could do this all night. Is this the elevation hasn't changed, right? It's not that Pumapunku at one time was at sea level with trees. It's at 12,000 feet, right?
Well, that's a great observation you just brought up, Jimmy, because what's fascinating is, see, Velikovsky also always spoke about this idea that there may have been some type of a pole shift. And if that were to happen, then you basically have to picture the globe, the sphere of the Earth, essentially, flipping over and the poles reversing, or that the poles are in a different position. Because what's fascinating about Pumapunku is that they actually found fossils of saltwater creatures from the Pacific, from the ocean. So this means that at some point, this Andean plateau was much, much lower, or everything was always high up before it all broke off. But at some point, there absolutely was a connection to the ocean up in Pumapunku. And that would suggest that these stories, or not stories, but these calculations that some people did in the 1920s until 1960s, that perhaps Pumapunku dates back, with Tiwanaku, by the way, because this is how this all established, with the gate of the sun and the gate of the moon, that they were able to look at these carvings on there, and they determined, oh, it could be some type of a calendar. The guy I'm referring to is Arthur Poznansky. And he calculated that perhaps this place dates back maybe 25,000 years. And the answer is, it's a huge problem to date stone. And this is the fact that we are facing, that currently there are no inexpensive ways how to date stone. You can do it, but it's incredibly expensive. And every time, by the way, some of these techniques have been used, the result is always thousands and thousands of years earlier than what mainstream archaeology claims when it was built.
Now, Pumapunku, Tiwanaku is a stone's throw away. Like literally, you could probably hit it with a baseball, right?
I'm sure you could. I'm not sure about myself, but you could, I'm sure. Yes, absolutely. Oh, it's in walking distance.
Yeah, walking distance.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I mean, if I hope we can travel again soon, but I recommend that you spend at least 2 days there, so that on the first day you look at Tiwanaku, and on the second day you look at Pumapunku, or you do half a day there and half a day there. You can walk in between the two. And, when I was there for the first time in 1996, there was absolutely nothing there but a couple of buildings and dirt roads and nothing. Now you have a couple of hotels.
Oh.
You've got a restaurant and incredible. And you can have, for lunch, you can have some llama meat if you would like. It's delicious, by the way. So it's night and day there now. And but I think it's wonderful that a place as remote as Tiwanaku, it has become a tourist place because it supports also the local community.
Now, what is, we always talk about coincidences, right? The two areas are separate, but yet they are so close that we have to step back and say, what is so special about this area? What was going on? Because they could quite possibly separate each other by thousands of years, right? But yet they are the same spot on Google Earth.
Yeah, and I think that this could potentially have something to do with that some type of an extraterrestrial event happened, and some type of a visitation. And then the local people wanted to put in stone a type of a landmark, a type of a remembrance that something extraordinary happened in that particular area. And so the fact that we have these stories of giants or, the so-called gods, and these stories, by the way, I have met many locals and they carry these stories forward. To them, this is not allegory. It's not, fantasy. And so, I have a hard time when, people try to explain it away when the local population says, well, no, wait a second. According to our traditions, this is what we think happened. And then we come in, not us, but some of the archaeologists, they come in and say, well, actually, you should look at it that way. No, we are the ones actually from the Ancient Astronaut camp. When the local population says that they've had help from teachers that happen to descend from the sky, we've actually decided to listen to these stories because those stories, in most cases, are correct.
Now, how is the local tour guides, when you're not there, right? Childress is not down, but the tourists are coming through. How are they now describing the sites and potentially what is involved here? Are they going ancient astronaut theory, or are they trying to keep it clean and going with the orthodox, the local archaeologists and schools and government? How do they approach what's going on?
Well, I have a funny little anecdote for you, and that is a few years ago, I was in Mexico exploring some sites, and I was with this guide who at first did not recognize what I did or where I'm from and all of this. And so he was curious that I would ask, and Crix was with me as well, so I have a witness. He noticed that we both asked very, specific, detailed questions about history, archaeology, this and that. He's like, you know your stuff. And I'm like, yeah, it's my hobby. And and then all of a sudden, out of the blue, he says, some people say that this had something to do, perhaps, with space aliens, but I think that's crazy. And then I did not say a word, but over the next 2 hours, I dropped a hint there, I dropped a hint there, and he's like, wait a second, do you watch Ancient Aliens? And I'm like, no, actually, I'm on it. And then that man's brain opened up, and we spent an entire next 3 days together exploring places, and you could see that in that man's brain, something opened. And, and again, and I can't say this enough, nobody has ever suggested that the ancient structures were not built by humans. It was always humans, always. So, the attacks and all this nonsense, it goes in my left ear and it goes out on the right.
Yeah, Giorgio, here we are in officially 2021, and I hope that you and Crix are healthy and cool, but we are coming off of 3 years of pretty intense media coverage of UFOs, and it has been nonstop, and I'm enjoying all of it. The Super Bowl, I know you didn't watch it, but the Super Bowl had commercials, each one was aliens or ET. It's pretty crazy this year. Well, you were in the Taco Bell commercial a couple of years ago. But where are we? Do you think we are getting really close to an event, whether it is something in the skies or something more official from a government?
Yes, I really do. I mean, I've been saying for 2 decades now that in our lifetime we will make contact, official contact. But, I really think that we are in the middle of disclosure. And I've said this on this show before. Disclosure is not one press conference. It's not, okay, here it is. I think what's happened in the past 2-3 years is disclosure. It's part of the bigger picture. And, I think it's fascinating to witness all of this, all of these going on. And at the same time, though, there are now people, and by the way, I remember receiving a fax in 1999 where somebody said, well, when the UFOs show up, it'll just be projections into the sky for UFOs and things like that, and Project Bluebeam or whatever that thing is called.
Right.
And so it's all just it's just a stage show. And all I have to say to that, and especially with what's been going on in the past 3 years and whatnot, we all need to learn to become a little more less. We are too cynical. The cynicism is rampant. Everything is a conspiracy. Everything is something sinister. And I say enough. We need to start looking at the good that is on this planet and not let us be led by fear. And by that, I'm not saying that, wearing your mask, that is fearful. No, it's courteous, man. So this idea that, if and when the extraterrestrials, if we see their ships up in the sky by the masses, that is just some, technology projected into the sky. I don't know what happened to some of those people that they have lost all sense of wonder, that everything these days is just, labeled a conspiracy. And I mean, we are living in very bizarre times.
Now, Giorgio, I've got exactly 2 minutes left. Resident Alien. Spill the beans, man. Spill the beans. What's going on?
So, Resident Alien is a new show on the Sci-Fi Channel, which was created by Chris Sheridan. He is the guy that created this show, and it's based on the 2012 comic called Resident Alien by Peter Hogan and Steve Parkhouse. And it's this new show on Sci-Fi with Alan Tudyk and an incredibly wonderful cast. And in fact, tonight after the show, it airs at 10 p.m. on Sci-Fi. And tonight is episode 3. I had a little appearance in episode 2, and I will have an actual appearance later in the show. I can't tell you when and where. You just have to tune in. It's very dark. It's very, very funny, and I think people will love it. So far, they're doing great, by the way.
So you're a plot twist.
Maybe.
Oh man, it's such a great, it's such a great show, and it caught me by surprise. Liz, right, and the look on her face at that moment, I thought to myself, what is she looking at? Right? and it was a special moment, and I couldn't wait to ask you about that on the show. Listen, our best to you and Crix this Friday, Ancient Aliens with William Shatner and the big round table with the Ancient Alien crew. Giorgio, thank you so much. The Fadernauts love you. We love you around here. You know this, man. And I can't wait for us to hang out. It's been too long, but we'll get it done soon. Thank you so much.
Love you guys. Thank you, Jimmy. Take care. Bye-bye.
Giorgio Tsoukalos. Now, it is this Friday, premiering with William Shatner, Ancient Aliens, and tonight after the show, of course, is Resident Alien. Giorgio Tsoukalos, the best. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. When I come back after this short break, Dave Schrader of the Holzer Files. Thank you so much, Giorgio. Good night. Oh, Giorgio's gone. See, he already left. Good night, Giorgio.
I was just waiting.
Oh, the absolute best. I'll be right back.
Way out here, we listen to Jimmy Church.
You're listening to Fade to Black.
Always on the edge of the hottest alternative talk. Jimmy Church with Fade to Black. KGRAradio.com.
In the
mis amigos, yo soy Mario Carson, el tiburón, y los invito para que escuchen a mi buen amigo Jimmy Church Radio. ¡Claro que sí!
Do you want to be an official Fade or Not? Of course you do. This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black. Just go to our membership section at jimmychurchradio.com. Fade or Nots. When you think about the future of our country and where we're headed, do you wonder about the food supply? I do. Disruptions in the food supply chain could be disastrous, and they usually occur with little warning. That's why the smartest thing you can do today is to stockpile emergency food, water, and other essentials. I personally recommend My Patriot Supply. They're the nation's largest emergency preparedness company, serving millions of customers for more than a decade. In fact, they're the only source my family trusts for our preparedness plan. You should too. Right now, save 20% off a full 4-week supply of delicious meals that provide 2,000 calories a day. Saving 20% helps too, doesn't it? Especially now. So go to preparewithjimmy.com and get ready. That's preparewithjimmy.com. There's no time to lose. Do it now.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7, with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
You listen to us, and we listen to you. And so does the CIA. KGRAradio.com.
You are listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Network.
Oi, oi, I'm Reese Evans. You're listening to Jimmy Church. This is Revolution. The revolution will not be televised. The revolution is on radio. Ciao.
Welcome back, Fade to Black. I am your host, Jimmy Church. Closing out TV week tonight with, well, that was Giorgio Tsoukalos. Right now, it's Dave Schrader, and we'll get to Dave in just a second. I want to talk to you about Virtual Shield VPN. The data of 2.3 million users was leaked 2 weeks ago after a hacker found a backdoor into the popular dating site Meet Mindful. The personal data included names, Facebook IDs, emails, birth dates, and location data. The data was then uploaded to a public hacking forum for anybody to download. Now, if you want to prevent attacks like this from happening to you, I highly recommend Virtual Shield. Very simple. virtualshield.com/fade to black. That's all you've got to do. Or you can click on the link right in the video description box if you're watching YouTube right now, and you will get Virtual Shield VPN for 50% off today. Virtual Shield VPN. I would like to welcome to the show the one and only Dave Schrader. Joins us tonight, of course, host of the Holzer Files, now in the middle of season 3. And Dave has lived a life immersed in the paranormal. That's right, ghostly visitations. We're talking about Bigfoot sightings, UFO encounters. He seems to, I don't know how he does it. He's always in the right place at the right time. And I would like to welcome back to Fade to Black, the one and only Dave Schrader. Dave, good evening, man. You look great.
Hey, Jimmy, thanks a lot. Did I get the camera working right? Are you able to see me?
Look at you, man. You're all pro.
I'm trying. Man. I never hook up a camera to this computer, so you're getting a unique perspective here. But it's good. I like being able to actually look and see you for our conversation. And so this is good.
You're shaved. You have a clean shirt on.
Well, relatively. Yeah. Hey, man, but I like your enthusiasm, but we're not in season 3 yet. This is season 2. We did a mid-season break, as cable TV likes to do. And there was the big change up over at Travel Channel that all the paranormal programming switched over to Discovery Plus.
Right.
And I am there. So our first episode just began airing this Saturday. And it is the back, 7 of our episodes for the season. So we've got 6 episodes left. Exciting time. So it's good. We got a lot of great stuff going on here. And I'm hoping even with the transition of the show from Travel to Discovery Plus with all the rest of the paranormal, I'm hoping we'll be seeing a season 3.
Well, see, this is the thing with, the pandemic. I'm holed up just like everybody else is. Everything's a blur. And when I started to read what was going on, I was like, wow, season 3 of the Holzer Files, right? And that's just me. And that's the way that I read through it. But exciting stuff. And last night, let me ask you this, Dave. I want to start off here. Sure. You've had such a long career in radio and of course, the podcast and Darkness Radio. And now all of this TV stuff that you've been doing, not only with the Holzer Files, but Ghost Adventures and the things that you have done. What do you prefer? What do you prefer, radio or TV? Where's your comfort level?
I like how one feeds the other. To be honest with you, I grew up wanting to do radio. I fantasized about doing radio. I used to contact local radio bigwigs in Chicago, Larry Lujak and Wally Phillips and Roy Leonard and, just some of these classic names, Steve Dahl, Gary Meyer. I wanted to talk about radio, and I especially like just their personalities. Even though most of them weren't talk radio show hosts, they led morning shows and did things like that. So that's always kind of been my desire. So I've been lucky enough now 15 years of doing Darkness Radio. I got to do a couple years in college with radio and loved it. And now it kind of blends into the TV cycle. So I'm doing Holzer Files again, which just kicked off again the second part of the season on Discovery Plus. I've been a guest on the new TV show called Fright Club with the Ghost Brothers and Jack Osborne. I'm in episodes 2 and 3. So I like that I can pop in and do these things, and that because of what I've done in radio, it has people acknowledge me in different ways. And I got what I think is one of the best compliments ever, Jimmy, from this last episode of Fright Club. The Ghost Brothers refer to me as the Chuck Norris of the paranormal. So I'll take that.
And that's cool. That's actually cool.
Right?
And now this is another thing for me when I think about Dave Schrader. I look to you as a resource for the paranormal and ghost hunting and Bigfoot and UFOs. But then there's the whole true crime part of what you do and where your knowledge base is. If you looked at yourself as being an expert in one of those fields, which one would it be?
Boy, that term expert really kind of
opens up a can of
worms, doesn't it?
It does.
I don't think I'm an expert per se in true crime. My interest in it is unfortunate that it was because I had a dear friend of mine. She was my first girlfriend in high school, and we, dated briefly in high school and remained friends. And years later, when my first son was about to be born, her first son was about to be born, and we reconnected as friends and helped, I helped her try to get back on her feet. And a few years later, I think, going on 25 years, 26 years here now, she was murdered, and along with 2 of her children. And that really got me into the fascination with true crime, of wanting to understand how and why people do the heinous things that they do. So that was it. And then I learned quick, when we were doing Darkness Radio, trying to find compelling paranormal guests 5 nights a week is not, as you know, not always the easiest thing. So I told Tim, I said, what if we expanded? Whenever we do a paranormal show that has a true crime slant, it explodes. What if we just dedicate Tuesdays to true crime? And, he was reluctant at first, and he said, I'll trust you. You have good instincts. And we went to True Crime Tuesday on our show, and it's been with us now, I think, 9 years. And people love it. But one show a week is enough for me on that, because you get immersed in such dark, icky stuff that I like the break of having Wednesdays be supernatural news and parashare, and we can laugh about, weird news from around the world and read people's stories and have their calls. So that kind of breaks up the monotony of that. And then every Thursday now on Darkness Radio, we do our guests. So it's kind of a nice break the way we do it.
Now, I love synchronicities, and I always respond to them when we and you know the drill, booking a show, not only night after night, but that adds up to months and then years. Right. It's a difficult thing to do. And so we're lining up this week, and I'm reaching out to everybody, and we're doing our thing. And I want the best. I want the best for the audience. And I'm going down, okay. So, I reach out to Scott Walter, and, we're doing things. And then I reach out to you and Giorgio and things. I line everything up. And then it turns out, not only are you and Scott, from Minnesota, but you guys go back years, and that's that aspect of it. It's a weird synchronicity. But Scott is you asked Scott to do an episode with you, and you guys just shot that. That's just a weird synchronicity back to back. And I look at that and I go, man, that's kind of strange, but it's not. That's the universe, right? That's the universe just going, okay.
We go to shoot this episode at America's Stonehenge, and leading up to it, they kind of tell me, oh, this is one of the cases we're examining. I'm like, oh, that's awesome. Hans Holzer went there multiple times. It fascinated him beyond just the supernatural element. It was the historic relevance of what this location is, cracking Mystery Hill. And I reached out to Scott, like you said, we're both Minnesota boys, and he worked on the Rune Stone here in Minnesota, and we've become friends. I've had him on the show a dozen times through the years. And I asked him, I said, hey, man, are you familiar with America's Stonehenge? He goes, I most certainly am. And I said, would you be interested in joining me for a paranormal look at this and maybe kind of weighing in with some of the history? And he was more than happy to do so. So I recommended him to our producers. Thankfully, they saw the merit in having one of the foremost forensic geologists in the world join us for that. And it was great. We filmed our scene together, and it went a lot longer than it normally would for this interview. And afterwards, producers and cameramen and everybody came up and they said, that was fascinating. What you guys just did, you should have your own show together. You guys really mesh well. And this was just cool to watch happen. So unfortunately, it'll be pared down to a 2-minute segment on the episode. But, we get that, we have that good simpatico, and we have a good give and take with one another.
Now, what is it about, I want to talk about America's Stonehenge for a second, because you just hit the nail on the head. Holzer was fascinated with the site. There's a paranormal aspect to the site. There's a historical part to the site. It's also could potentially predate everything that we know about North America. Going back not 500 years, thousands of years. It's very special, isn't it?
Well, it really is. And sadly, I've been out that way a few times, and I'd never had a chance to visit it. That's the other aspect of doing the TV show that I love, Jimmy, because it gives me an opportunity to go to historic sites, to become part of the history and the story and the legend and lore of these locations, and to get to go to a place I know Hans has been a dozen or so times, and Scott's been there a dozen or so times, and there's this element of strange supernatural happenings, kind of a dark element there that the owners have talked to us about, and that we try to detail and capture evidence of, and then you've got Scott and looking at the forensic implications of what that location is and what it means, and he liked I wasn't sure, talking to him paranormal-wise, was he going to go down that rabbit hole with me? And, man, not only did he go down the rabbit hole with me, he held my hand through it a couple times, because he really liked where we were going with the concepts of what the possibilities are, what this place could mean. And, he said, hey, man, we've got a sacrificial table. We've got things here that make sense, that if paranormal was going to happen, this would be the place for it to occur.
Now, help me understand how haunted that place is. Only because there's been a lot of death, right? We know that, right? There's that part. It's so old that anything could have gone on there for thousands of years.
Right.
There's got to be spirits just hanging out.
Well, and what was it truly used for? Was there, there's a sacrificial table there with the bleed lines.
Yes.
Was it animals? Was it humans? Was it a mixture of both? A lot of people, we have to remember, in the early times, considered it an honor to be the one selected to be
sacrificed.
Killed, sacrificed to these gods and to history. So it's an interesting element because it's not the same fear. It's not like a horror movie where Jimmy and Dave are walking in the woods and suddenly we're surrounded and, they pull pillowcases off our heads and we're strapped to a sacrificial table. This was an honor bestowed upon them. But there's other aspects. What did they use this thing for? And because of the concentric kind of circles, the way it goes out from the center, I don't want to give too much away, but we believe there were multiple cultures that used this site for multiple purposes and reasons. And what all did they invoke? What did they call forward? And what still walks the grounds? We had a Native American there with us who was terrified to go back up because of experiences he'd had. For the most part, it's a very pleasant, interesting place that kids go to for field trips. But at night, it just takes on this otherworldly ambiance, and it really gets chilling. And I can't say who, but we do have a very special guest investigator join us that night on the episode. Not Scott. Scott's kind of a historian who's there to clue me in on some of the pieces of the puzzle. But we have a very cool guest investigator joining us for the first time on that episode. So there's a lot of excellent firsts about that one. And that comes out on February 27th. It'll be released on Discovery Plus.
Now, that's why you're such a great host, because you knew that was my next question. Yeah. There's something else here. When you see something like Chichen Itza and you look at the steps that lead up and about the sacrifices that the Mayans did and the bodies tumbling and what must have been, thousands of gallons of blood dripping down. I'm just speaking about, history here. And you can't avoid that thought. And when you go to the sacrificial table at America's Stonehenge, where your feet are, right? That is histories of blood that is in the ground there, right? DNA, humans, people, and animals too as well. Does that go through your mind when you walk around?
It does. And you know what really is kind of a key element to this for me, Jimmy? And this was triggered actually from a true crime episode that I did of Darkness Radio years ago, where we talked about the Black Dahlia murder. And I spoke to a gentleman who believes his father was the Black Dahlia killer and might have been Zodiac as well. And we talked to him on the show, fascinating guy, and he talks to me about Sergeant Paul Dosty, this world-renowned cadaver dog specialist, and he had a dog named Buster. And as we were chatting, he told me just how good his dog was. This dog could, they had flown over before Buster passed away a few years ago. He was flown over with Buster to Europe to help try to find missing servicemen and paratroopers, and they uncovered them 50, 60, 70 years later. So the dog's senses are registering something. They can find outdoor burial grounds that are hundreds of years old. How? What does that tell us about the blood, about the makeup of who we are as humans? There is a traceable element of energy that a dog can, not just a scent, Jim. This has got to go beyond a scent, because we're talking about locations that are exposed to rain, wind, sleet, snow. 200 years later, the dog can find that element of energy. That means a ghost, a spirit. What is it? Where does it reside? It might be in multiple places, which is why you'll see a haunting take place in 3 or 4 locations around the country. Grandma's ghost as a child is in this home, but she died at the age of 89 across the country in a totally different home, and her ghost is seen there. Well, as a child, she split her knee, she cried, she had nightmares. She imprinted on that area with part of who she was. And in her death, where she lived throughout her life, that was another element of it. So there's this energy that's left behind. And when you find a place like Mystery Hill in Salem, New Hampshire, this America's Stonehenge, and there's so much what today we would consider tragedy, but at that point was ways to keep and appease the gods so that their fields would come in, their crops would come in, their animals would be plentiful, whatever it was that they were sacrificing for, the alignment of the stars and such. That ground, as you said, is soaked in blood. So there's so much energy, so many stories to be told there, so many souls that are fragmented and left behind to be examined and remembered.
Can you feel it through your feet? And I'm not being, I'm not trying to be funny here.
No, people will be like, oh, first of all, I didn't take my shoes off, so I couldn't say that I could feel that. But I say that because, I do think there's an element to that. If, maybe if I was barefoot and I would have picked up on some of that. To give you and your listeners kind of a perspective, in, 1998, I visited Pearl Harbor. And I went out and stood over the USS Arizona. And it had no tie to me. I mean, my grandfather fought in World War II, but he survived. He wasn't stationed on this ship. But I went and I stood over the ship, and it was very quiet that day. There was maybe 7 or 8 men standing out there. And I just stood there, and this overwhelming sense of tragedy came over me, and I just started sobbing out loud. And when I embarrassingly, you're trying to block yourself, and I look, and every other guy's shoulders are just throbbing up and down as they're sobbing. There is a palpable energy and sense of sadness and tragedy that goes beyond just, oh man, I have some empathy, these poor guys died. You feel that tragedy. You feel the emotion of that moment. And I'm not a medium, and I wasn't barefooting on the Arizona deal, but that psychic scar is so deep and wide for what happened there that it just overwhelmed all of us.
The energy at America's Stonehenge, and I know that this episode is coming up in a couple of weeks, and I want everybody to check it out. But the rocks, they absorb. They do. They hold the energy. I'm just going to say this really quick. I went to an ancient Spanish fort, probably 500 years old or so, maybe older. It's called Fort San Lorenzo down in Central America. And so I'm there, and I'm standing in this part that's overlooking this bay, and with the cannons and the things. It's all very old. But you start to, there's something residual that's hanging out there. You can almost see the soldier standing there. You could almost see and feel what is going on. And I think that the rocks and the things, they hold that energy. They absorb it, and they keep it forever.
Right. It's the stone tape theory, right? That these elements have somehow recorded, like a VHS tape or an audio cassette, recorded these elements of history that can be played back. There was a great episode, if you were an X-Files fan like I was, Jimmy, there was that great episode where they were making a bowl during the time of Christ, and as the guy was shaping the bowl without realizing it, he was creating a record of what was being recorded in that room at the time of they're discussing the killing of Christ, and it could be played back. It was something along those lines. And I think there's something to that, this element of everything around us is an observer to our story, right? You could check the elements of the ground to see when these impacts hit, how it affected flora and fauna. You could look at the trees in the area where Travis Walton was abducted in Fire in the Sky, and you notice there's mutations in the trees that date to that time. Some kind of mutation occurred. Was it the plasma lift of the UFO? Was it something that was there? But all of these things are there as markers of time, and they're watching. And, Native Americans and so many other ancient civilizations believe that each one of these things have spirits. And I believe that there's something to that because they have stories to tell. And sometimes we're lucky enough to trip through them.
And what? Okay. And we're going to talk more about this after the break. When we talk about spirits or ghosts, what ultimately do you think we are dealing with? Is it electricity? Is it electromagnetic energy? Is that what this is, or is it something else that we just don't understand at all?
I think there's different elements to what a ghost is. Like I said, we have yet to discern where consciousness exists. Mm-hmm. Is it in our mind? Is it in our heart? Is it in our blood? Or is it in all of who we are? Is it in the memories and the things we leave behind? I don't think there's one specific answer. I'm believing more in time slip phenomena, where a lot of what we're experiencing, you start to go back, like the Whaley House. We went to investigate the Whaley House in San Diego, and I thought, what more of this story is there to uncover? We were the first ever to get the opportunity to read handwritten letters that the Whaleys sent back and forth to each other. And the part of the story that was intriguing to me is they talked about the strange haunting in their house at that time. Well, since that time, since they passed away, this house has been multiple things, but it's been this historical marker where people have come investigating claims of the paranormal. What if the things that went bump in the night that terrified the Whaleys was an echo backwards? We like to think that ghosts and the things we encounter are from our past. What if they were sitting in their home and they could hear the echoes of Dave Schrader's footfalls in the house in 2019, investigating, calling out for help? What if that's what was taking place? So I think there are different elements of time slip phenomena, stone tape recording, and then fractured souls, little elements of who we are that we leave behind. And some of those fragments may just be dark slices of our consciousness, which may be why they're so rudimentary and flickering lights or banging the wall or only getting EVP that say, get out. It's that basal animal instinct that's left behind of a bigger consciousness.
So in the Whaley letters today, I heard Dave Schrader whispered in the night. Right?
Exactly.
Yes.
But they talk about, Mr. Whaley makes comments about the fact that he would come home, do what he needed to do when he was in the house alone before nightfall so he could get to his room and lock the door because he could hear things moving around the house.
Creepy.
There are ghosts at Waverly Hills Sanitarium where when it was a fully functioning tuberculosis clinic at an old folks home, nurses and doctors would see spirits constantly walking around. We're going in and seeing spirits of nurses and doctors who look shocked to see us, Jimmy, and they turn around and run out. Why are they shocked if they're a ghost? Because they aren't a ghost. They're in 1953 doing their rounds, and here comes Dave Schrader in his bucket of blood sweatshirt from Virginia City, and they think, holy hell, what is happening? And they run. We were the ghosts. We're the ghost stories that they were telling.
Here's the lesson. Never ghost hunt any location that starts with a W. That's
right.
That's my rule. Our guest tonight, Dave Schrader, the Holzer Files, Darkness Radio, Darkness Dave is with us. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. More with Dave after this short break. Stay with us.
Hi everybody, this is Rob Halford, the Metal Guard on JimmyChurchRadio.com.
This is KGRA Digital Broadcasting Station. Salt Lake City, Utah. Van Buren, Arkansas.
Why is it we're not very good with our health regimen until it's too late? We don't put oil in the car until the engine blows up. When the body's out of balance, your health is not so good. Give your body some love. Log on to GetTheT.com. That's GetTheT.com. Try our Life Change Tea, which cleanses you from harmful intruders. A clean colon is one of the ways to bring the body in balance. We also carry organic supplements to help you get where you need to go. So do your body a favor. Log on to getthetea.com. That's getthetea.com. You can even visit our sales page to save some dough. Does anybody call money dough anymore? Anyway, if you're looking for short, helpful health tips, go to YouTube and punch in Health Matters Now. That's Health Matters Now. So, log on to getthetea.com, shop, get balanced, then learn some cool tips at Health Matters Now. You'll be glad you did. That's getthetea.com.
Your contact for current news and trending topics. KGRAradio.com.
This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and I only drink Fade to Black blend coffee from Rivermoon. Just click on the Rivermoon Coffee banner at jimmychurchradio.com. Promo code F2B Blend.
This is the only way forward.
This is Fade to Black. Make contact. KGRAradio.com.
When you're in the house for longer periods of time, you can see them flying or running across the floor. Ooh, yuck. They're unhealthy, gross, and disgusting. Bugs. I loathe bugs. We keep a clean home, but occasionally bugs show up. Well, I found something that is tougher than bugs. Orange Guard. On contact, it kills hidden bugs, including ants, roaches, and fleas. Plus, Orange Guard is a residual repellent. All of the ingredients of Orange Guard are on the FDA generally recognized as safe list. Orange Guard may be used around food, humans, and pets. It comes with a 30-day money-back guarantee. Orange Guard. Available at orangeguard.com, Whole Foods, and Ace Hardware.
You want to know a secret? I love ponies. I really love ponies. I'm serious. I couldn't stay sane without ponies to brush.
Why Fade to Black? Because you never got that pony, damn
it. This is Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
Welcome back, Fade to Black. I am your host, Jimmy Church. Tonight, Dave Schrader, Darkness Dave. It's so funny. I'm going to throw Dave under the bus. So during the break, I'm texting Dave in Skype. I'm going, dude, check your text. I mean, that was funny. That was funny watching you do that.
I'm so non-tech savvy when it comes to computer stuff. So I use Skype all the time for Darkness Radio. I use it when I'm guests on different shows. But like where do I watch and how do I go to chat? And see, when I turn it on, I focus on the interview. I forget all about the rest of the world, man, because I'm like a child in a candy shop. If there's too many things going on, I'm going to be looking and wanting to play. So
that was awesome, man. That was awesome. I just threw you under the bus. Now, I want to jump into another subject, and one that we have been covering more and more here on Fade to Black, but that's Bigfoot. And over the years, and I've always been on the fence. I want to be pushed in one direction or the other, so I kind of feel like I know what's going on. The more that I get into the subject of Bigfoot and the researchers that are out there, the more fascinated I am with Bigfoot. But Dave, I've got more questions than answers today than I've ever had. With Bigfoot, I don't know. I don't know if it's physical. I don't know if it's something interdimensional. I don't know. Primate, something that's hiding from humans or extraterrestrial, ET. I don't know what's going on, man. You need to help me out.
I wish I had an answer. If we have answers, what's the fun? The journey is in poking the bear and looking for different theories. Is there one answer? Could these things have been ancient civilizations? You know, the Native Americans, the indigenous peoples, there are different factions that talk about them as though they are their own clan of Native Americans. They just elect to stay away from them because they consider them dangerous or volatile. There are some that look at them as friends, and could it be geographically charged? You know, in some areas they're calmer. You know, they're the the Pekingese puppy of the cryptid world, and then you go to Georgia, where the swamp ape is, and maybe that's more of the Doberman pinscher, right? So there's different issues with these beings, and could they be all in the same interdimensional beings that live here? Listen, the older I'm getting, the more I'm finding I think aliens are here. I think Bigfoot is here. I think a lot of these things coexist, and sometimes they're there right in front of our face, Jimmy, but we're so tied up in our own moment of being on our phones, being in a relationship, you know, focusing on work, that we miss the subtleties, the changes that we might have noticed had we been paying more attention. And I think that's why children have a lot of encounters with the supernatural, because they're not as distracted by life as we as adults are. And that's why I think guys like you and I love this field, Jimmy, because it allows us to be kids again. We get to take off our adult hat and we get to be kids, and we get to have wonder and awe, and we get to re-examine these concepts that there might be monsters under our bed. There really might be monsters under our bed and in the woods and in the lakes around us. Let's go examine that. Let's create it. And tulpas, thought forms, all of that might exist because of this interest.
Now, where I start to, and I don't want to, I just don't want to go too deep into the rabbit hole where sure. I can't, and I'm talking about Bigfoot, where right. I can't get my mind back. I need to stay in a safe zone. But I happen to be at a location where these, you brought up kids, 3 young men, boys. I think they were all, Jax was probably 11 or 12 at the time, but the other 2 were under the age of 10. They're out having fun, right? They're out exploring. One of them comes up to me, and I'm alone, and he says, "Hey, Jimmy, you want to see a Bigfoot print?" I'm like, man, Dave, on everything that is right. holy, I said, how far do I have to walk? Right?
That's the old man. Yeah. That's the old man in you.
I swear. And he goes, "It's right over there." And he points, and I see the two other kids standing over there, Jax and Phoenix, and I'm like, okay, that's not that far. Okay, so I walk over, and sure enough, man, it's this big in the ground, 3 inches deep. And I'm standing there. Okay, we ended up finding 4. And the pictures are out there. I'll send them to you. But anyway, and video. I immediately thought, what made the print? This is physical. This is giant. This is big. But where are the Bigfoot? Where are they? Why haven't we found all the footprints? We've seen, but where's the body, right? Where's the bones? And that's the part for me where I try to stay pragmatic.
Well, look at this. There are serial killers who drag a body off into the woods, and we never find the bodies, even after they tell us where they dropped it off. Because animals are scavengers, and they might pick and poke and drag pieces off into different areas and eat them or chew on them, and they're unrecognizable to you and I. It looks like an old dirty stick when we walk past it. So what are we looking for? We're looking for a bleached white bone that we'd see in a skeleton. You and I may be stepping over bones all the time in the wilderness that we have no clue are fragments because it's a huge log. And, I had no idea that was the thigh bone of a Sasquatch, right? Because I'm not that guy. So we might be missing out on it. It's like the people that say, if there's really UFOs, Jimmy, why haven't they flown over the White House? But people forget they did. 1952, there's photographs in Life magazine. It's out there. It exists. It's just, what are you willing to believe? What are you willing to go along with? And are you willing to concede that maybe, even if you're an expert hunter, you don't recognize a bone of an animal you're not familiar with? And we are stepping over the remains, or do they bury their dead? That's not out of the question.
I agree with all of that. And then there's the other part of me, and I'm just being devil's advocate here.
Sure.
Where they say, well, we don't find bears, skeletons in the woods. No. Deers. Okay, I get that. Monk, I get that. But we hit deer with cars all the time. How is Bigfoot avoided, cars?
He hasn't been. People have talked about hitting Bigfoot with their car. They've hit the Bigfoot and he's put his hand on the hood and left these big marks. There's stories like this that exist. But, you see something huge and hairy jump out in the road, you might turn and it's a glancing blow. Plus, if this thing's that big and powerful, I'm sure it's just a muscular structure to be able to survive in the element, you might have done very little damage to it. Or, I believe when we first started Darkness Radio 15 years ago, I had a guest on, and his name eludes me, but he talked about the fact that he believes that the Sasquatch work like a military unit. They have sentries. That's how you can hear stuff, and you keep approaching what you think might be the Bigfoot encampment. You find the bend over branches and the foliage and the nests, but there's nothing there. How did they know? Because they're constantly in the flying duck V formation backing up in the woods as they're watching us encroach. And then as they see them leave, they go on. And from time to time, you've got a scout that wanders out and gets seen. And that's why there's one here and there. So there's different elements of the story. I saw something when I was a kid I firmly believe was a Bigfoot. Could I hold my hand on the Bible and swear to you it was? No. Maybe it was a giant homeless man out in my grandparents' back 40, but I saw it, and it pushed down the top of a incredibly tall bush, pushed it down, and I could see from right underneath the nose to the top of the head. And it had a large Barry Gibb black and gray mane and a very dark inset face. And it stared at my cousin and I. And when we heard it walking, it was big walking in the woods. That's the only part we saw of it. And it was a good 50 yards away. But having been able to go back out there after that, we could see how tall the trees were at that point. I was 10, 11, 12 years old. And the bushes it was pushing down were a good 7 feet tall, and it was pushing down and exposing its face. It was enough to rattle my family that my dad, my uncle, and my grandfather grabbed their shotguns and ran out into the woods to see what was out there.
Now, okay. So then this is where I try to rationalize it.
Sure.
That just maybe it's interdimensional. Just maybe that's why there's no bodies. Maybe that's why they disappear and appear so quickly. Maybe, because that's, to me, Dave, as crazy as it is, because I'm on the fence, but that may be the simplest explanation of all of this. And then you combine, the orbs, the lights in the sky, there's UFO sightings, and then there's a Bigfoot sighting. Is that a way to help explain all of this?
I was writing a young adult book for my kids about Bigfoot. And one of the concepts I came up with, just thinking about all of the stories of Bigfoot, how all of a sudden there's this pungent smell of sometimes rotting meat or burning fur, hair. And I thought, if these things are interdimensional and they're stepping through a portal, is there kind of think of the Terminator when he's beamed back into the past. There's that kind of crackling energy around him. Does that pungent smell come because it just stepped through into our world, and it's a little burned, it's a little singed from making that transition? And hearing more and more of these stories, I wonder, because it's not there, and then it is there, and then it's gone again. How does a smell like that on something that big just dissipate? Because if you've gone to the zoo, and where I live in Minnesota, we're not far from the Minnesota Zoo, and on bad, hot summer nights when it's humid and, I'm far enough away from the zoo, I can't necessarily hear the roar of the lions, but I can smell animal. You can just smell it coming up. And it's, not super strong, but you can smell it. So if something's there and close to you, how are you not smelling it all the time? Maybe because it is in phase, or it's shifting in and out of our reality.
Well, and I started to think about this and take it more and more seriously after we discovered this set of prints, and there was 4. They were about 6 feet apart, by the way, left, right, 6 feet. Okay, now imagine that kind of gait, right? Because I tried to step in between, and I was getting about 3 feet, 4 feet before I lost balance, and I was still 2 feet away from the next footprint. And it went in an arch, but in the middle of this field. But there were no footprints before, and there were none after. So what, did it just drop in? Did it parachute in? Right? I mean, what? That was the part for me that got me thinking, maybe he just appeared and disappeared.
Well, and here's a concept. I think it might have been Quantum Leap or one of those shows. But again, it was an interesting concept of how you could time travel, or how you could travel through space. And it was taking a piece of paper and you put an X here and an X here. So you've got them spread apart. And how do we get a direct line? It's going to take that long. Well, you don't. You fold it. And if we fold it and then push the pencil through, it goes from one to another in an instant. Maybe it's walking through, and we are just one of the pages of the chapter that it's walking through to where it's going. So for a brief instant, it's there. It's out as it's making its way through the different levels of existence. Or maybe like you and I, it only stays hidden while it's consciously thinking about it, and we get distracted by something. And for that moment, our consciousness stops, and we're, oh man, did I leave the tea kettle on? And for that moment, Bigfoot's wondering if he left the door unlocked to the cave. And then he realizes that he's being seen, and then boom, consciously goes back into it and isn't seen again. I don't know, but it's fun to talk about. That's, what, and here's the deal. If you could know tomorrow the answer to this question, would you really open that door? Because to me, I think it's a lot more fun to want to know and listen to people's stories and the derivations in the way they tell them and what their thoughts and concepts are. And like with ghosts, I don't know that we're ever going to find one true answer to any one of these elements.
The flying saucer on the White House lawn, right? Okay, so we're there, live TV, it's hovering, the stairs come down, and, there's 5 billion people watching live around the world, and you see the feet coming down. I've often wondered who steps off that ship. Is it Jesus, right? Is it Elvis? Is it Bigfoot, right? I mean, none of those are out of the question. But what
and it's the first thing. Is the first thing they ask, pardon me, do you have any Grey Poupon? Right? Why? What are they here for? Jimmy, something big's coming. I have no doubt in my mind. We've got disclosure, soft disclosure, that's getting harder every year, right? We are getting the blue chew of exposure slowly released to us over the last few years. Something's coming. I don't question that. I think we're on the precipice of finding some big answers, and it's going to shake the world up. It's going to shake our concepts and beliefs, but that's okay. It's time to elevate. It's time to take that next evolutionary step in consciousness. And until we can break the paradigms we're all locked into and realize there's so much more, and we are really such an insignificant gnat on the back of this giant dog, until we can get past that and then just accept things for what they are and learn to work together, all the hippie kumbaya stuff that people don't like to hear, I think we're going to start seeing ridiculous things that will change our life.
No,
and I believe that.
Yeah, after the pandemic, and every conspiracy theory known to man is out there. The truth about ET, UFOs, and Bigfoot and ghosts and the paranormal, I don't think is going to be that big of a deal, right? I mean, we're pretty acclimated to the shock at this point.
I did a video earlier this year that I posted on social media. I did it as a joke. It was after having been home for like 60 days and hadn't shaved or cut my hair, because I usually keep my head shaved bald and everything. But I've got hair on the side, my beard and goatee are all wild, and I just looked crazed. And as I was sitting here, I looked at it and I laughed. I'm about to go shave my head. So I'm like, well, let's have some fun. So I set my phone up and I get that wild-eyed look, right? And I'm like, hey, man, just thinking this thing out, man. What if COVID is man-made and it's being spread, but not for the reasons you think, man? What if they know the aliens are coming? And this is to blanket us in a virus so virulent, so destructive that, like War of the Worlds, man, when the aliens land here, we don't have to worry about the takeover. This thing's going to kill them all, and we'll be safe. And I'm just kind of rambling, and I'm doing this. And I did it obviously as a joke, and I start getting messages. And I start getting messages from people that are like, I can't tell you who I am, but you are definitely onto something. And I can say this. I work with a 3-letter agency. I know that what you think you're doing is funny, but you're very close to the truth.
That's exactly where we are at, Dave. Right now, today, that you can go and do that, and it's okay, right?
Sure, and then 5G, 5G, we're spreading the viral virus. It's breathable, man. It's breathable. Then we have 5G towers going up, man. And what'll happen is when the aliens enter our atmosphere, we'll flip on the 5G, man, and it's going to electrify all of the chemicals of our breath from the COVID. It'll fry their mainframe, man. It's saving our planet. And then the Bigfoot contingent will come out of the ocean and help us.
That's bleeping brilliant. You just need to throw in some Bill Gates. Right?
No, man. That's what the man wants you to believe, Jimmy.
I haven't laughed that hard in a long time. But this is what is so insane to me. As funny as that is, and I laughed really, really hard. I'm shocked, and again, not surprised. But when this conspiracy stuff started to go 2 years ago, and it started, I thought to myself, we're okay in the UFO community. We're okay in the paranormal community. We know how to deal with conspiracies. We do. You get outside of our circle into the status quo, they don't know how to deal with it. And that's where we are today. And that's why that video, right, as funny as it was, and you did it as a joke, those out there that don't know how to handle it, everything is truth today. It's a dangerous world we are in when it comes to conspiracy theory, aren't we, Dave?
Well, conspiracy in general is a scary thing because it's human, Jimmy. We want to believe there's some cabal behind what's taking place. It can't be just one bad guy went in and shot up a school full of children. It has to be that it's a government cover-up. It's a conspiracy. It was a false flag narrative to take away our guns, which hasn't worked. It's the worst trick in history because nobody's guns have been taken away, except for the lunatics who went out shaking their guns and threatening others with them because they weren't going to have their guns taken away. So, that's where it starts getting into these points. You've got to be careful what you believe in. Not everything is tied to something big, deep, and dark. And I know they're going to say, no, that's because you're working with the man, right? They're controlling you, Schrader. They're controlling you. That's why you believe that. No, I just believe that sometimes we want a villain. I wanted a villain when my mom died. I wanted to be mad at God. I wanted to vent. And my co-host and longtime friend Tim took me aside and he's like, tell me where this anger is coming from. And I said, man, my mom died. She spent her life in service for others. She was a nurse. She did everything for everyone else. And then she just retired, man. She was supposed to go live the rest of her life in happiness and in contentment with my dad, see the world. And he said, your mom got to travel for the last 35 years with her dad, with your dad, the man she loves, the love of her life. she got to do the job she was born to do, that she loved to do, which was servicing others. Your mom completed a life that should be. And when you readjust and look at these things through a different perspective, I didn't need a villain. I needed clarity. And in those cases, sometimes we just have to divert from the desire to plant the finger of blame on something and just start to look at the reality of what our actions may have done to put us in the positions that we're in.
Yeah, and I found it very interesting that the conspiracy creators out there, of which now there are thousands of conspiracies and 1,000 authors of these, have developed the fine art of extending the conspiracy. Right? They extend it, just like you said right now, that it is so easy to just keep it going and make it perpetual. It's fascinating to me, Dave.
Because so many people want to understand why this took place. It has to be something bigger than them. There has to be some, and you know what? It also shows you the fragility of humanity, because what it really came down to is, Jimmy, I just wanted someone like you in my life that we could talk about this with. I wanted to feel I was a part of a community that we could discuss these things. Now, I'm not saying there aren't some crazy-ass conspiracies that are true.
There's a lot of them.
I do not believe that Lee Harvey Oswald killed JFK, right? I believe that there are different conspiracies. I believe there was a conspiracy to cover up Roswell. There are conspiracies to do these things, but I don't believe everything is a conspiracy. I think that sometimes tragedy happens because that's life.
Now, you don't have a choice. You're going to hang on and do overtime with us. That's it. That's it. Checks in the mail. So you don't have to worry about that. All right. This is Fade to Black. Our guest tonight, Darkness Dave. Dave Schrader is with us of the Holzer Files, and it's not season 3. I've been saying that all week. Dave threw me under the bus. It's part 2. It's part 2 of season 2.
It's season 2.5.
It's season 2.5. We're doing overtime next after this short break. Stay with us. This is Fade to Black.
Vivica Fox here, and you are listening to my boy, Jimmy Church, on jimmychurchradio.com.
Despite popular opinion, reading a book will not make you smarter.
But listening to Jimmy Church will.
This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and I take Life Change Tea supplements every single day. It's what I do. Click on their banner at jimmychurchradio.com. When you take the beans from Central America with dashes of Indonesian and African mixed in and then roast it to the dark side of Fade to Black, you create the ultimate brew of fringe. Introducing the Fade to Black blend from River Moon Coffee. Yes, River Moon's darkest customized roast was created for the love of Fade to Black. The alchemy of masterful roasting and smoking the beans is in every sip of this full-bodied, dark Java. I need my coffee dark, deep, with distinct bittersweet chocolate highlights, just like the bunker. Leaning further into the darkness of the roast is Fade to Black blend from River Moon Coffee. Just click on the banner at jimmychurchradio.com and use the promo code F2B Blend for 15% off of your order today.
Hello, my name is Billy Carson, and I am a best-selling author and the founder of ForbiddenKnowledge.tv. Together with my team, we have built an all-new conscious streaming TV platform designed with every family member in mind. If you have ever wanted to travel the world and attend lectures and workshops from your favorite speakers but weren't able to, look no further. ForbiddenKnowledge.tv. There are dozens of workshops and lectures from speakers you know and love. We have also included amazing categories to assure that your consciousness is entertained and elevating on a daily basis. Amazing interviews, ancient history, ascension knowledge, wisdom teachings, documentaries, conspiracies, mysteries, health and fitness, conscious cooking, meditations, finance, yoga, and so much more. To start your free trial on any mobile device or computer, surf to forbiddenknowledge.tv. That's Forbidden Knowledge with the number 4, forbiddenknowledge.tv. Again, visit forbiddenknowledge.tv today.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from TalkStream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now, the Paranormal Radio app. Free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
This is Erica, Brittany, Gabby, and you're listening to JamieChurchRadio.com.
It's not a lifestyle we chose. We were born this way. KGRARadio.com.
This is KJCR at JimmyChurchRadio.com.
Welcome back, Fade to Black. I am your host, Jimmy Church. It's our last night of TV week here on Fade to Black. I want to thank Giorgio Tsoukalos for coming in. Right now it's Darkness Dave Schrader, and host of the Holzer Files and, of course, Darkness Radio. And I'm going to say this out of the gate. There's so much out there, the soap opera, that show hosts aren't friends, and we're just... no. Dave, I just enjoy our friendship and every time that you are on the show, except hopefully it doesn't end right now with what I'm about to say.
Oh, all right. All right, here we go. Let's see what you got for me.
I'm supposed to ask you, what is Blue Chew?
What is Blue Chew? Jimmy, come on. Men of our age know what Blue Chew is. Love shouldn't be hard, but it's better when it is, Jimmy. It's the chewable version of erection pills, and it's available over the counter. You can order Blue Chew. It's one of our sponsors on our radio program, and I'm a man of 53 years old. I have a beautiful wife, 14, almost 15 years my junior. And I need to keep up to date, if you know what I mean, Jimmy. So I'm not afraid to say that a strong man asks for help.
Blue
Chew. Check it out.
What is it? Is it gum?
No, it's a little tablet.
It's a tablet. It's a tablet. You don't chew the tablet.
You do. Blue Chew. You chew it. It's a chewable tablet. See how that works?
Am I red? Am I changing color?
I know.
That's what Blue Chew is. I was picturing what was when we were kids, Big Chew.
Big Chew. Yeah, where you take the big plug of gum strips and stick them in between your lip and gum.
Yeah, and it was the intro to tobacco and nicotine for kids.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Like those little chalk cigarettes we used to get.
Man, I used to love those, man.
Oh, yeah. Who didn't? It was always cool to smoke little fake cigarettes. Yeah.
I remember you could, when you first got it out, you could blow through it and the sugar dust would blow out like smoke. Do you remember that?
So you'd have to do it. Yeah, you do have to do it slow. So you just take puffs off it. So it always look like you got a little bit of smoke in it. If you just blow it all out, it's no good, Jim.
Man, that's right. That was the coolest thing when we were kids, was to get those bubblegum cigarettes. God.
Dude, I mourn for the children of today because they don't know the joys of candy cigarettes. They don't know what it's like to ride in the backseat of a station wagon with your buddies with no seatbelt on. They don't know what it's like to be able to get on your bikes and bike all day and come home as the streetlights go on. We live in a sheltered, weird world right now. And I miss my childhood, and I wish my children had my childhood. And I don't know if it's just because maybe our parents hated us, Jim, and they just hoped we'd get abducted or beat up. But I'm not sure.
You know, that was a fact of life. And
Right.
For anybody that is listening right now that think that is a bunch of BS, let me tell you something. You did not go back home. You did not go in the house because you got yelled at.
Yeah.
You were told to go back outside. Right? I mean, my parents had no clue where we were for 12, 14, 16 hours a day.
Man, there's nothing better than disappearing. I'd ride my Huffy through the backwoods by my house playing Planet of the Apes, being chased by the monkeys, and on my imaginary horse as I'm beating the odds. And I'd go fishing for hours on the little ponds and lakes by my home. And, God, you remember playing marathon sessions of softball with your buddies. Now I go out and, I get a paper cut. I need a nap. Right. When I was a kid, I could play all day long, man. I miss that. I want to get back to that world. That's where we all need to be.
Yeah. I felt so strange. You're a parent. I'm a parent. And my two daughters, the front yard, that was the limit. The fence, you could not go outside of the gates. You stayed in the front yard where I can see you.
Yeah.
Right? And how wrong is that? That's the society that we're in today. That is not there isn't a parent in this country. You go to jail. You go to jail if you let your kids get out of your sight.
Yeah, it's crazy, right? I mean, I remember, and listen, it was a dangerous world back then. I remember walking the mile between mine and my best friend Rick's house. And I remember one day walking, and this guy pulled up in an old rusted car, and he rolled down his window. He said, "Hey, man, can you help me? I'm trying to find stuff." What? I can't find my way. I'm trying to go to. And so I get closer. You're trying to find what? And as I get closer, he goes, "Get in the car." And then I realized, oh, no. And I was about to be abducted. And I took off like a bat out of hell, cutting through backyards, screaming. And neighbors came out at that time, Jimmy. When I'm yelling, neighbors are coming out to see it. I'm like, he's trying to grab me. He's trying to grab me. And I cut through yards, jumped my friend's fence, and was there. You can't cut through people's yards anymore without a lawsuit. You can't, that you call out for help and your neighbors shut their curtains now. It's a sad aspect of the world that we live in.
I had the same thing happen to me, except for I was 14 or 15 years old, and I got in the car. Mm-hmm. And I'm not going to tell the story. I might have told it on the air before. But I got out of the car eventually. And when I did, and it got strange. It did. And I am so lucky that it didn't go to where it could have gone. That's the fact. But I'm running, and I see my friend Craig Talteval. And I see his mom, a German lady. She was great. She was awesome. But anyway, she's in the front yard watering the lawn. And I run past her on everything that I love, and I walk through her front door. Right? I walked into her house, and she's like, "Jimmy, what's wrong?" And I walked right through and in, and wow, right? And that's.
Do you remember this? I grew up in the suburbs of Chicago, about 22 miles west, in a town called Medina and Roselle.
I know Medina. Yes.
Okay. We used to have, you'd look in people's front windows and you'd see a sheet of paper with a red hand on it. And that meant that was a safe house. Mm-hmm. If there were kidnappers, tornadoes, whatever was going on, you could go there and you would be safe. And you don't see that anymore. You don't see the sense of community that we used to have in this world. People watching out for each other the way we used to. And that's, I think that's kind of a shame.
Yeah, I grew up in North Chicago, right? Okay.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Right.
And check this out. I'm so glad we're having this conversation.
Sure,
I've
yeah.
never told this story on the air, but this is what it was like growing up. So I am probably 6.
Okay.
I'm about 6 or 7 years old, and we lived on Lake Michigan. And we could go down to the beach of Lake Michigan, which was a quarter mile from our house. You could see Lake Michigan from our house. This is at Fort Sheridan, by the way, the Army base. So anyway, we would walk down, and from the beach, you could look up, which was south, and you could just see the Chicago skyline, right, from where we were. But you could see the sand. And one day, me and my brother Mike and another friend, we decide that we're going to walk to Chicago, right? And we take off. We walk up the beach. Now, we start in the morning, and we walk as far. Of course, obviously we didn't make it. I don't know how many miles we walked.
Right.
But we were gone all day, and we got to the point where we need to turn around and go back. We've been doing this for 4 or 5 hours, and we turned around and walked back up the beach, back home, and made it. Imagine if my kids told me that story today, they would be grounded until they were 50.
And here, folks, this is the scary part. There were no cell phones. You couldn't reach us wherever we were. You just had to pray we would make our way home. Right? That's it. That's it.
I think about it now, and I wouldn't give that up for anything.
Nothing.
I mean, where did it go, man? Where did it go?
I lived a Hardy Boy's life. I would sneak into old abandoned homes and churches. I would, the old amusement park. You remember Adventureland?
Oh,
right
yeah,
off
of course.
Lake Street? Yeah.
Yep.
When it shut down, it was, a couple miles from my house. We'd walk there. We'd hop the fence and walk around in that creepy old place. And we'd, go loot through the old stuffed animal bags. And, it was a remarkable life. But, yeah, like you said, that just doesn't exist anymore.
Now,
that world.
I know I've got a dozen. Give me the craziest adventure story when you were a kid. The craziest adventure story. The one that's at the top. Something comes to mind first.
Sure. I would say, we had... this is kind of where the name of our show came from. Darkness Radio is actually Darkness on the Edge of Town, paranormal radio show based on Bruce Springsteen's song. But that concept that in every town, in every village, in every state, in every country around the world, there's that area, that one house everybody knows belongs to the town witch or the ghostly house. And there was one house that was haunted, surrounded by nothing but woods, never any lights on. And I remember that my buddies and I crept through their backyard and into the backyard of this house with overgrown trees and bushes and hedges and grass. And we snuck in through a basement window and we walked around the house and we uncovered dirty comic books and magazines. We found crazy old, jewels and it's just kind of cool stuff. And then we found out that house wasn't abandoned. There was just a guy in there that didn't like people. And we all heard this moan, and we turned and looked at each other thinking the seventh layer of hell had just opened and a demon was coming for us. And there was a man that came around the corner, and you've never seen kids Scooby-Doo it out of a house as quick as we did. And that was one of my fun moments of adventure that will stick with me till the day I die. Just remembering that, that urban exploration. And again, we would have never gone in there had I known. We just thought it was an old abandoned house. Nobody ever visited.
I got nothing. Yeah. I can't. When I lived in Indianapolis, we probably lived about 5 miles from our junior high school, which was PS 103, Public School 103, on 38th Street. And it sat off of 38th behind this set of woods. So it was actually like in a subdivision on the other side of these trees. But to get to school, we had to walk up 38th Street, cross 38th Street, and there was a path. It was paved for kids to go to school, and it went through the woods, and then we would come out on the other side of the woods, about 100 yards maybe, to the backside of the junior high school. Okay, no big deal. But when you're walking through this path, to the left, out in the forest, out in the woods, was this house. And it sat there all by itself. And there were all of these rumors. It's haunted, it's this and that. And we never, and 7th and 8th grade, junior high, I just let that place go. But I would see it, right? And it was just like there. Kind of creepy. Well, one day, my friend, his name was Paul, he goes, man, let's go to the haunted house. I'm like, dude, no, I'm not down with that. Not down with it. No, man, we're going to go. We're going to go. Lunch hour today. We're going to go. And so it's lunch hour. After you're done eating lunch in the cafeteria, went out to the playground, right? Okay. All right, for the rest of the lunch hour. He's like, let's go. Oh, man. So we sneak off and we get off school grounds and we're walking through the woods and I'm coming up to this and it's abandoned. It's one-story house. And as I'm getting closer, I could see the windows are knocked out and things. And we get through and we go in the back door and walk in and it's beat down. There's no furniture or anything and there's holes in the wall and stuff like that. Anyway. Walk through the back half of the house and we walk into the living room. It's a wooden floor. And I see this fireplace. And I'm walking into the living room. And on the floor, on everything that I love, on this wooden floor, is like a 10-foot black pentagram in the middle of the living room floor. And I didn't really understand. I kind of knew. I was probably 11 years old at the time, 12 years old. But I knew it wasn't right. But it freaked me out, Dave. It freaked me out. I was like, dude, I'm out. And I went back, and it was like burnt into my eyeballs. Now I know today, now is it kids? Is it hippies? This is 1975. Is it just people goofing around? I don't know. I just saw it, and there it was, and it was painted. And my memory was it was like brushed, right? Not like spray paint, but it was black paint on the floor. There it was. I never went back. Never went back. Yeah, it was
evidence appearing real. What if it was a pentacle? But because you'd seen it in horror movies, you thought it was something bad. What if this was a protective spell the owner had put on that home?
Scared the crap out of me, man. Didn't matter either way. Didn't matter either way.
That's the best. Yeah.
Let me just say that I remember. Man, I wish Paul, Keith Powell, Paul Jackson, my friends from back then, listening to the show to call in, because after that. That was the back entrance and going out the path to get to 38th Street. I changed my route. I went out the front of the school. I didn't go through the woods anymore. I went out the front of the school and took the long way home. I was done. I couldn't walk through the woods anymore.
Yeah, I don't blame you. I had a house where I grew up in Medina, and it was all just ranch houses. Right? There are beautiful little houses. Everything's fine. Very Pleasant Valley Sunday. And I'm walking to, I think it was Halloween, getting to my buddy's house. And as I walk past this house, I just glance up and I see the old man standing inside. So he's got a hedge, the sidewalk, and then his house with the plate glass window. And back in the day, right, late 70s, early 80s, we didn't have 9,000 cable channels. So we used to watch people mow their lawn and check on our neighbors.
Right.
So I don't think too much of it. I take a few more steps and I glance back at him, and he's outside in front of the row of hedges without making a sound. And I turn, I start trying to process, and I'm like, what? And I turn one more time, and now he's halfway in the middle of his yard standing there staring at me. No sound, no running. I take off, I turn one more time, and he's on the corner of the yard 5 feet from me. Boom, like a bat out of hell. I found out later the father of that house had died Christmas Eve, had a massive heart attack in front of that picture window. So, he wasn't like throwing a flaming pumpkin at me. He wasn't screaming with black eyes. He just was watching, but it was the most terrifying. And as an adult, when I go out there still to visit my dad, I will avoid that road at all costs. And I can't tell you why, because like I said, nothing chilling about it other than I just knew it felt wrong and it was weird. But on that same street, I was running out to go visit my buddy, started raining. There was a house that was being built on the corner. They had the structure up and a lightning bolt hit that house and I got knocked on my butt. I mean, that lightning bolt hit a half a block away. And because there was water everywhere and it hit that frame, boom, I just flipped backwards. So I didn't get hit directly by lightning, but I definitely got the follow through. So that whole street was weird to me growing up.
Now, what were the odds of that? What are the odds of that? I mean,
yeah,
that's now, what about, and the old man kind of freaks me out.
Yeah.
Did you, was your grandparents' house haunted? And the reason, before you answer that, I, with all of my friends visiting their grandparents growing up, you know, we've all done that a few times. My grandparents, it seemed that they all said the same thing. Oh, that's our ghost. Right? That's our ghost. We have a ghost here. Same thing with you?
I didn't, but that was my introduction to the world of the paranormal. My grandmother, love her soul, she passed away from cirrhosis. She was an alcoholic, and I was her pride and joy. I was the son she never got to have, but she was so far along in her journey of destruction that I made it to barely 2 when she passed away. And when I would go to visit my grandfather, I would sleep in what was my grandmother's room, because they loved each other. But my grandfather, up till the day he died, snored like you were putting a chainsaw through a garbage disposal, or bottles for a garbage disposal. So they had to sleep far apart. So I slept in her room, and when my mom would come to pick me up, I'd tell her how grandma came to talk to me, and she would read me stories and tell me how much she loved me. And my mom thought I was dreaming, and she put it off a few times. And then finally I got very animated about the fact that it was silly. She didn't have all of her teeth. And then I described what she looked like. And my mom, talking to my aunt one day, said, Dave keeps dreaming of mom. She goes, what do you mean? Well, every time I drop him off here and he spends the night, he says mom comes to visit him and read to him. And my aunt's eyes get huge. And she's like, really? Yeah. And what's weird is the last time he said she looks kind of funny because she doesn't have all of her teeth. She was wearing a dress with like a necklace. And because of the state of how she looked when she passed, it was a closed casket. My grandfather found out, that my grandmother had passed away. He told my aunt, he said, go home, pick out an outfit for her, and then bring it to me. And then he turned it over to the mortician, and it was a closed casket. So there were 3 people, my aunt, my grandpa, and the mortician that knew what my aunt or my grandmother was buried in. And I described to a T the outfit she had been buried in. And they had removed her false teeth for burial. So I shouldn't have known those things at the age I was. But so that house was haunted by my grandmother. But I don't know if, I've driven past it as an adult and often wondered, if I go knock on that door, what would they tell me? Would they say that there's still something there? Is my grandmother still on those grounds? It's hard to say, but it's, I've often thought about making that return someday.
I know that you have repeated this at that age to your relatives, but do you remember this going down?
No, it was just the legend and lore. But
right.
What the kind of coup de grace to this whole thing was that when my mom told my aunt that, my aunt admitted she had gotten phone calls from my grandmother after she died. And so it was, my grandmother's spirit was very prevalent and wanted to keep in touch with all of us. I believe she made another appearance at my oldest son's birth. It was a home birth. We had a midwife, and the baby was Breach, my oldest son, Cliff. And she tried to deliver the baby in the normal way and then said, okay, we're going to bring gravity into this. I want you to stand up, Dave. You're going to put your arms out in front of you like goalposts. And she's going to stand with her back to you and put her arms over your arms. And she's going to drop her weight and you're going to hold her up. Well, I had just had knee surgery the month before. So I'm like, okay. And I'm trying to, I'm a strong, strapping young 20-year-old and I can do this. And I'm holding her and she'd go into a contraction, come out of it. And I'd relax, she'd relax. And then she drops into a contraction, and I start to lose my balance and I start falling backwards. And I get to like a 90-degree pitch and I stop, and it felt like somebody grabbed me underneath both of my armpits and stood me straight back up. And I'm figuring, I've watched The Incredible Hulk. I know what it's like. You just, in a moment of love, and you're going to get this interior strength, and my muscles and my back locked up, and I hulked out and helped her. But afterwards, my mom says, my mom worked for a hospital for crippled children, spinal cord injuries. She goes, how did you stand up? That was impossible. I said, truthfully, it kind of felt like somebody grabbed me. She goes, that's what it looked like. Because my mom was there to help deliver.
Right.
And then she goes, did you smell anything? And I said, Mom, I was holding a pregnant woman giving birth. I smelled a lot of things. And she laughed and she said, but did you smell anything? I said, well, I did smell flowers. She goes, that was your grandmother's perfume. And I stepped out in the hall, and my aunt pulls me aside and she goes, did you smell anything? And I said, yeah, I smell flowers. She goes, that was Mom's perfume. She was here, Dave. I think she's the one that grabbed you. So I think my grandmother made that visit again, 18 years later to come say hi and help me deliver my son, my first boy.
I remember, we're at the end of the show. I wanted to share this with you really quick. Speaking of grandparents, I was sitting at my grandparents' house in Holly, Michigan, which was at the time it was 150 years old. So anyway, I'm sitting there with my grandfather, Cal, and we're watching TV, and I'm hearing, and I'm like 5. I'm young, but I'm hearing noises in the house, and my grandmother is in the kitchen washing dishes. I can hear her, but their bedroom, TV's in front of me, their bedroom doors, and I'm hearing noise, like stuff coming from the bedroom, and I'm looking at my grandfather, and he's not moving. He's watching TV. I'm hearing stuff, and I'm looking at him, waiting for him to say something. And I'm like, Grandpa, don't you hear that? My grandmother comes out. She's drying her hands. She goes, that's our ghost. And turns around and walks back into the kitchen. I'm like,
very matter of fact. Yeah.
What? Yeah. Ghost? There you go. And that house always freaked me out. And after that, I was kind of chilled out about it, but ghosts were there, right? It was like this verification. Dave, okay, so when does the Holzer Files air?
Holzer Files is back. It's on Discovery Plus. Right now, you can get a 7-day free trial. Try it out, see if you like it. You'd be amazed how many channels are part of Discovery Plus, and you get thousands of hours of content. Our first new episode just started last week with one of the best pieces of visual evidence I've ever seen. This week, you got to tune in because something... I leave with a huge gouge in my back. You'll have to tune in and find out what happens. There's 6 new episodes. They begin airing every Saturday on Discovery Plus, so please check it out. And remember to check out Darkness Radio.
And Darkness is new when?
Every Tuesday, True Crime Tuesday drops. Wednesday, Thursday, we've got brand new episodes. And then every Friday, I do Holzer's Ghosts, which is a recap of the last episode of Holzer's Files. And we talk with people from the episode, and we go take a deeper dive into that. It's a live video stream on Thursday nights, and then the episode is a podcast on Fridays.
Now, we have everything right there at Jimmy Church Radio. You can go and darknessradio.com and, of course, travelchannel.com and Discovery Plus. It's all right there over at jimmychurchradio.com. Dave, you and your 1 million kids and your 5 million grandkids, be safe and be well, man. Thank you so much.
Stay safe. Thank you all, Fadernauts. I appreciate the time and the love you've been showing tonight. Take care, Jimmy. I'll see you again.
Darkness Dave Schrader, the absolute very best. Thank you, Dave. And we just went bumper to bumper, pole to pole. I got to go straight to the credits. So thank you, Dave. Thank you, Giorgio Tsoukalos. What a great night on the show. I want to remind everybody tomorrow night's Fader Night. Open lines all night long. Fade to Black's executive producer is Rita Camurian. Shows produced by Hilton J. Palm, Renee, Dennis, and Kevin. Announcers are Steve Harder, Gene Vito, and Mark D. Kovar. Webmaster is Drew the Geek. Music, Doug Aldrich. Intro, Spaceboy. SpaceboyMusic.com. Fade to Black is produced by KJCR for the Game Changer Network. Syndication is KGRA, The Planet. This broadcast owned and copyrighted 2021 by Fade to Black and the Game Changer Network, Inc. It cannot be rebroadcast, downloaded, copied, or used anywhere in the known universe without written permission from Fade to Black or the Game Changer Network. I'm yours, Jimmy Church. Tomorrow night's Thursday night. It's Fader night. Open lines all night long. Get ready for that. Until then, I want everybody to be safe. It's time to fade to black.